Chapter 317. Mo by Ci nodded and didn't say anything else. The Dead Soul Sea Pond was filled with swamps, and there were many terrifying low-level poisonous insects. Although these things could be protected with spiritual energy, the journey was long, and it was impossible to use spiritual energy the entire time. But the strange thing was that the poisonous insects within 100 miles didn't bite Luo Qingshan at all. Therefore, Yin Ruo Yao sourly said, "Sir by Ci, since we're traveling together, you have to treat us all equally." She naturally thought that Mo by Ci must have given Luo Qingshan the antidote pill, so she wasn't attacked by the poisonous insects. "Of course," Mo by Ci said in a cold voice, "but if Qingshan isn't willing to give it to you, I can't force her." Yin Ruo Yao heard this, and her eyes were stunned as they filled with confusion. Could it be that Mo by Ci's meaning was that he did have the antidote pill, but it was given to him by Luo Qingshan and not him giving it to Luo Qingshan? I've heard that the Full Spirit County's Immortal Lady clan is good at alchemy. Because they're in a damp place, it's hard to avoid meeting poisonous insects, so they can refine pills that can suppress these poisonous insects. It can be said that they have reached perfection. Li Jinfeng's eyes fell onto Luo Qingshan, and the different emotions in his eyes gradually couldn't be hidden. Luo Qingshan said with a nod with a faint smile, "That's right. Last night, Mo by Ci had already planned on injecting his spiritual energy into her to deal with the poisonous insects in the Dead Soul Sea Pond." But she pursed her lips into a smile and shook her head. She took out a bottle of pills and gave one to him before telling him, "It's not bitter, it's very sweet. If you like it, you can eat 2 more." Mo by Ci didn't eat many, but the poisonous insects couldn't enter their bodies today, so it could be considered protecting the Immortal Lady clan's reputation. Of course, these pills were all given to her by the little mushroom. It had to be said, it was quite useful at a critical moment. Hearing Li Jinfeng's words, Yin Ruo Yao's current situation was quite awkward. She stared at Luo Qingshan with wide eyes and said with a crooked mouth, "I don't care. You speak as if I'm willing to give it to you." Luo Qingshan coldly snorted. She didn't care at all what kind of mage the other party was. Direct confrontation. "Ruo Yao, don't be rude." Li Jinfeng angrily roared out as a faint anger appeared in his eyes. In her previous life, Yin Ruo Yao was still immortal. Although she was a bit competitive at times, she was still a cute girl. But now, at that time, after she returned to the Void Residence, she found him and told him that she was his lover in his previous life. He was very excited and immediately expelled the little cherry blossom demon that he had doted on for 100 years. Yin Ruo told him that the little cherry blossom demon must have seduced him and made him mistake her for someone else. Li Jinfeng immediately believed her words. He didn't have any attachment to a little cherry blossom demon like Luo Qingshan. He had even forgotten that in these 100 years, he had gone from being an unknown mage outside of the top 100 to being ranked 3rd. How many days and nights had it been because of her incessant encouragement and her eyes that had always believed in him? 100 years, for mages like them, wasn't considered long, but it wasn't considered short either. Yin Ruo Yao bit her lip in an aggrieved manner, and tears were about to fall from her round eyes. This was the first time he had been fierce to her since they met. No matter how unreasonable or excessive her requests were before, he had never been fierce to her. Now, he was actually doing this because of a weak little demon. If it wasn't for her exquisite ring, how could she have beaten her at the Spirit Spell Conference? Chapter 318. That night, they spent it in the Dead Soul Sea Pond. There were birds, beasts, and insects all over the place, surrounded by Mo by Ci's giant barrier. They didn't sleep at all and arrived at the center of the Dead Soul Sea Pond in half a day on foot. But the exquisite ring on Luo Qingshan's hand didn't resonate with a divine weapon at all. AI. It can't be that someone is addicted to being an imposter and even wants to imitate a divine weapon, right? Yin Ruo Yao looked at Luo Qingshan with a trace of disdain in her voice, but she couldn't completely show it. "Oh." Luo Qingshan nodded like she suddenly understood. "Are you suspecting that there is a problem with the Star Monarch's eyes? Or has he never tasted the damage of an ancient divine weapon before?" You. Yin Ruo Yao wanted to refute, but she found that no matter what she said, she was at a complete disadvantage. In just 3 months, what did Luo Qingchen experience that made her change this much? She still remembered the pitiful scene of her being chased out of the Void Residence by Li Jinfeng 3 months ago. That pitiful appearance made her heart fill with joy when she saw it. But now, she had become so eloquent. Mo, Bai Sai, silently looked at her, and seeing her happy appearance, his heart couldn't help filling with joy, without knowing why. Even if he wasn't an iron tree blooming, he never thought that there would be a day where he could feel another person's emotions. Moreover, he didn't hate this feeling. The next morning, they set off to the center of the Dead Soul Sea Pond. They cut through the thorns and passed through the quagmire, reaching the center. There was a large, ancient forest from top to bottom that was dense, blocking their line of sight layer by layer. It was dark all around, and there was no light from the sun or moon. The exquisite ring didn't react. Mo, by Ci, slightly knit his brows as a trace of worry appeared in his eyes. Luo Qingchen looked down, and the exquisite ring was the same as usual, not moving at all. Are you certain it's this place? Luo Qingchen knit her brows. Although she knew that whether it was the Star Monarch or Mo by Ci, they wouldn't miscalculate the location of the Starlight Sword. Then why didn't the exquisite ring react? Ha! The Void Residence only sent the 4 of you to the Dead Soul Sea Pond to find the Stellar Sword. Isn't this a bit too sloppy? Not far away, a slightly familiar voice sounded from the sky, and there was a hint of demon aura in the air. The demon race's 4th Highness. Li Jinfeng pulled out his sword and pointed it at Su Qingxie. It was as if a great battle between good and evil was about to break out. Su Qingxie was wearing a flame-red robe, looking incomparably enchanting like he was surrounded by red lotus flames. His lips were slightly pursed as he looked at Luo Qingchen with a smile. Little cherry blossom demon, I said that we would meet again. Qingchen, do you know him? Li Jinfeng's eyes were filled with confusion. Didn't she spend the past 100 years with him in the Void Residence? How could he know the demon race's 4th Highness? What does that have to do with you? Luo Qingchen snorted and raised her eyebrows. Her words were as simple as they could be. She really didn't want to say another word to this kind of man. Su Qingxie, our meeting last time was a coincidence. Luo Qingchen narrowed her eyes as she looked at Su Qingxie in front of her and said, This time, I'm afraid it won't be a coincidence. Yin Ruo Yao heard this, and there was a trace of jealousy that others couldn't see that flashed in her eyes. After that, it was like she had caught Luo Qingchen's weakness as she said with a smile of disdain, So you're still in contact with the demon race. Chapter 319. Cuckoo. Su Qingxie cleared his throat when he saw this. There was a playful smile in his eyes as he looked at them and said, Do you need to solve your internal conflicts first? I'll wait for you. Do you think I don't know your goal in coming here? Mo by Ci crossed his hands, and there was a faint coldness in his eyes. You really are the destiny master that appears once in 1,000 years. Naturally, you can calculate everything. Su Qingxie said with a soft laugh, But so what? After that, his eyes fell onto Luo Qingchen, and there was a sparkle in his deep dark eyes. What do you mean, what? Li Jinfeng raised his sword and said, Do you think you can escape by yourself? Why would I escape? Su Qingxie raised a brow and said, Could it be that you don't know that as long as your spells reach the Dead Soul Sea Pond's barrier, it will be suppressed by half? Li Jinfeng tightly knit his brows. He naturally knew this, but he didn't want to be at a disadvantage when facing Su Qingxie. It was all because of what he had just said. Little cherry blossom demon, I said that we would meet again. Without knowing why, there was a very bad taste in his heart. After that, the sword in his hand was already flying out in Su Qingxie's direction. Su Qingxie's lips curled into a faint smile as he said, Overestimating yourself. With that, he conjured a guqin that was like a raging inferno. The body of the guqin was suffused with a blood-red glow. Ding-dang. He softly plucked the zither, and there was a strange sound that penetrated one's ears. Mo by C's brows slightly twitched, and he quickly moved to Luo Qingchen's side. His right hand was covered in a faint blue glow as he softly tapped on her forehead. Instantly, Luo Qingshan felt a strong spiritual energy protecting her, and that strange sound became smaller and smaller. At the same time, Li Jinfeng felt the zither sound pass through his skin and into his blood. He used all his spiritual energy to suppress it, but he still felt its interference. Xiao. In the blink of an eye, his sword was already in front of Su Qingxie. He snorted lightly and continued to play the guqin with one hand while fighting with the other. After several dozen rounds, Li Jinfeng's forehead was covered in sweat, but he didn't stop and kept attacking. Until, pong, Su Qingxie's palm landed on his chest and sent him flying half a meter. He tasted something sweet in his mouth and spat out a large mouthful of blood. Mo by Ci slightly knit his brows. In a short time that Li Jinfeng and Su Qingxie were fighting, he had created a barrier. He slowly walked to Li Jinfeng's side and helped him up. He really is the #1 destiny master. Su Qingxie couldn't help giving an emotional sigh as the flames in his eyes burned even brighter. The corner of his mouth curled up as he said, "Even so, in this Dead Soul Sea pond, you may not be my opponent. Then let's give it a try." In the next second, he raised his flashy sword. The sword chi was completely blue, and it blocked the attack from the blood-colored guqin. In a showdown between experts, the fallen leaves in the sky interweaved in the wind. His figure moved swiftly, and in the blink of an eye, he had already drawn 99 sword flowers. In an instant, the entire Dead Soul Sea pond shook. The sound of Su Qingxie's guqin gradually weakened, but he stubbornly refused to give up. That day in the hot spring inn, where he took away the little cherry blossom demon, he almost couldn't control his impulse to make a move against him. Even now, in this Dead Soul Sea pond, facing Mo by Ci, who only had half his spells, how could he retreat again? Chapter 320. In an instant, Luo Qingshan could feel a crack appear in the barrier around her. It cracked inch by inch and shattered into thousands of pieces. Mo by Ci. She raised her right hand, and the exquisite ring on her finger released a faint golden glow. She knew that in this Dead Soul Sea pond that suppressed half his spiritual energy, he had already used all his strength. She wanted to come forward to help, but she found that her hand was tightly held. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 70%. She looked up slightly and saw that Mo by Ci was already standing beside her. His face was a bit pale, but the sound of his zither had already disappeared. Relax. It was like he could see the worry in her eyes. Although his voice was soft, there was a bit of panic. There were flame-red feathers that floated down from the sky, bringing with them a bit of heat. Luo Qingshan slightly knit her brows. She felt that since Su Qingxie appeared, the surrounding temperature kept rising. Now, she could already feel a scorching power coming towards them. Sir by Ci. Li Jinfeng covered his wound and looked at the surrounding trees that kept turning red. His eyes were filled with worry as he said, "Just what is going on?" Hong Long. A burst of fire and lightning fell from the sky, splitting the place they were standing in half. "This is a barrier." Mo by Ci knit his brows and pulled Luo Qingshan beside him into his embrace. Barrier. As the name implied, this was not the real center of the Dead Soul Sea pond, but rather an illusion created by someone. Why was it like this? It felt like they were walking into a trap. Or perhaps there was a line in the dark that kept leading them to a dead end. Li Jinfeng instantly stood beside Yan Ruoyao. The fire and lightning kept falling from the sky, so he used his spiritual energy to create a barrier, hoping to protect her. But this was the Dead Soul Sea pond, and he was already injured. Such a barrier didn't last long before it shattered into pieces. He protected her behind him, but his eyes fell onto Luo Qingshan not far away. She stood steadily beside the man, with powerful spiritual energy. The two white figures looked so compatible in the hellfire of the Red Lotus. Come to think of it, she no longer needed his protection. That 100 years of companionship was nothing more than a fleeting cloud. In her heart right now, Li Jinfeng, should be nothing. When Luo Qingxin looked up at the sky, she inadvertently caught a glimpse of Yan Ruyao's face. There was no trace of panic in her eyes. Instead, there was a deathly calm. This strange look made Luo Qingxin's heart tremble slightly. She had never been afraid of Yan Ruiyao, but at this moment, she could see a trace of extreme coldness in her eyes. "Don't look," Mo by Ci softly buried her head in his chest. He knew that there were some things that he had to experience. He only hoped that he would be able to realize all the heavenly destinies that he had divined. It was all for the sake of protecting her from any more tribulations in this life. After that, there was a faint blue glow around Mo by Ci. There was a large amount of spiritual energy gathered on the flashy sword as it charged into the fiery red sky. Hong Long, with a giant sound, there was a powerful impact. Chapter 3:21. When she opened her eyes, there was nothing around her and everything was dark. She felt like the world was connected and she couldn't tell where it ended. She slowly stood up. There wasn't a single person around her. It was completely silent. Looking at it, it was a bit like the chaos space, but there wasn't a bronze mirror or a large lace bed here. "This is the unbounded land." The system's voice slowly rang out, calming her heart down quite a bit. God, this was actually the unbounded land. She naturally didn't know much about this place, but in the memories of the previous host, she still had an impression of this place. It was said that this was an independent space that completely separated the three realms, a place abandoned by the gods. There was only a single secret realm that connected it to the outside world. It was filled with danger and was very strange. But the most terrifying thing was that here, whether it was gods, demons, or spirit spell masters, they couldn't use their powers at all, other than the master of the ancient divine weapon. When the heavenly fire and thunder clashed with Mo by Ci's flashy sword, all the barriers were broken and the three realms were distorted. The unbounded land was instantly opened and they fell in. It should be because of the powerful spiritual energy that scattered them. Luo Qingxin lowered her head and the exquisite ring on her hand released a faint golden glow. The small pieces of Li Guang kept falling down, and in this dark, unbounded land, they were like fireflies. The exquisite ring had this reaction. It seemed like the real Starlight sword should be here. But the most important thing right now was to find Mo by Ci. But she didn't know that some things would happen in the end. On the other side, in the unbounded land's flame refining cave, Mo by Ci was trapped in the small flame refining pond by a red flame. His face was a bit pale, but his eyes were indifferent and cold, without a trace of fear. In the unbounded land. So what if you're the only destiny master chosen by the constellation god for thousands of years? Haven't you still become a prisoner of the demon race? There was a familiar voice that came from the air. Yan Ruiyao was wearing a red gauze dress, and her shoulders were vaguely revealed. Her slender thighs were covered by the red gauze, making them look very enchanting. She was originally a small demon guarding the unbounded land. It was because of this that she could use spells at will in the unbounded land. 300 years ago, when there was chaos and her life was in danger, she was saved by the demon race's fourth highness and became Su Qingxie's personal maid. Not only did he save her, but he also taught her martial arts, allowing her to stand out among the little demons. Until her first heavenly tribulation. At that time, she was still a little demon and didn't know what a tribulation was. She only knew that when the heavenly lightning struck, someone blocked it for her. That person was the demon race's aloof fourth highness Su Qingxie. He had actually blocked the heavenly tribulation for a maidservant. When she was a demon, she didn't kill anyone. After the heavenly tribulation, she didn't fall into the devil path. Instead, she became a lesser immortal. After spending so much time together, her heart was gradually moved and she unknowingly fell in love with this man. Have you thought of how you're going to repay me for helping you transcend the tribulation? If your highness has any instructions for me, Royale will go through fire and water without hesitation. There's no need to go through fire and water. I want to take you to a place. Where? The Void Residence. That day, Su Qingxie gave her the empty spirit sword, and had her go to the Void residence to learn martial arts. It was all for the day that she could find the whereabouts of the Starlight Sword. Although she wasn't willing to leave him, she still wanted to complete this task for him. Chapter 322. You really think that you can obtain the Starlight Sword? Mo by C's cold voice spread inch by inch in the silent, unbounded land. Of course. Yin Ruo Yao bit her red lips and said, You call yourself the heaven-falling continent's only destiny master, but you're only like this. You can't even guess my identity, and you're not embarrassed to call yourself this? She never thought that the Starlight Sword would fall in the unbounded land. If she knew earlier, she wouldn't have gone to the Void residence to ask for information. Then she could have stayed by Su Qingxie's side, watching the world change with him. This was her only wish in life. But why did she inadvertently see a different emotion in the eyes of the man she loved the most? She hated him calling Luo Qingshun Little Cherry Blossom Demon so gently. Such a lowly demon. She wasn't worthy of him calling her by her name. Why was everyone in the world so good to that little demon? Even this cold and proud Destiny Master in front of her wasn't an exception. Is that so? Mo by C's lips curled into a faint smile as he looked at her and said, If you really are like you said, the person in front of you should be Luo Qingshun. But you can't find her, right? Even in the unbounded land, he still had a way to make it so that she couldn't find Luo Qingshun. It was because before coming here, he had placed a barrier around her. Unless he died, it was impossible for Yin Ruo Yao to find her. He knew everything to begin with Yin Ruo Yao's identity, the location of the Starlight Sword. Although he couldn't calculate Luo Qingshun's fate, he had spent 300 years of cultivation to ask the Starlight God to calculate her heavenly tribulation. A little cherry blossom demon with only one layer of cultivation, it was impossible for her to pass this tribulation. The only way was for him to take the tribulation. Everything in this world had a cause and effect. If he had to take the tribulation for someone, the tribulation he had to take would be more than double hers. Yin Ruo Yao's eyes stared right at Mo by Ci as she said, You calculated my identity? No, impossible. There's nothing in the world that I can't divine. The only thing that matters is whether I'm willing to divine or not. Mo by Ci narrowed his cold eyes as he looked at her and said, If it wasn't for you being related to her heavenly tribulation, for someone like you, I wouldn't waste time divining your fate. You already knew? Yin Ruo Yao's body shook as she looked at him in disbelief. Then why didn't you just kill me at the Void residence? Why did you bring me to the Dead Soul Sea Pond? It wasn't that she didn't think that Mo by Ci could calculate her fate, but when she knew that he was bringing her to the Dead Soul Sea Pond, she began to doubt his abilities as a Destiny Master. If she had really divined her fate, she would have locked her up in the Void Residence's prison long ago and not brought her to this unbounded land, releasing a tiger back into the mountain. Mo by C's face was as calm as water, and there was a trace of Liguang in his dark eyes. His moon-white robe looked very clean. Are you going to tell me or not? Yin Ruo Yao bit her red lips and angrily said, Don't think that I won't have a way just because you won't tell me. I will make you talk. As soon as her voice fell, she waved her right hand and red lotuses appeared all over the ground. They spread out and firmly locked Mo by Ci in place. The red lotuses became tighter, as if they would crush his body in the next second. But his expression was still calm. His brows slightly knit as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 323. On the other side, Luo Qingshun kept moving forward, following the guidance of the exquisite ring. She wanted to find Mo by Ci as soon as possible. She wanted to use teleportation, but the system told her that in this place that was beyond the three realms, she couldn't use this ability. Just as she turned a corner, she could clearly feel the footsteps around her. Although it was very soft in this silent place, she could clearly hear it. She slowly raised the exquisite ring and waited for that person to come closer. After that, in the blink of an eye, she quickly made a move. The power of the exquisite ring sent that person flying 5 meters away. Luo Qingshun slightly knit her brows. There was a faint golden glow in her hand, and when she came closer, she finally recognized who this person was. Qing Chun. Li Jinfeng held his chest and stood up with difficulty. Her palm was very light. Although it sent that person flying, she didn't use any spiritual energy and just sent him flying. "Where's Yin Ruoyao?" Luo Qingchun slightly knit her brows and said, "She's not with you?" She didn't know why, but the calm expression on Yin Ruoyao's face when she was struck by fire and lightning kept appearing in her mind. As the seventh-ranked spirit spell master of the Void Residence, she could be considered someone who had seen many things. Although the situation was very dangerous, it wasn't to the point of being stunned like a wooden chicken. The only possibility was that she knew what was going to happen. "I don't know. I was pushed by a powerful force and came here." Li Jinfeng's eyes had a trace of excitement, like something that belonged to him had suddenly returned to his side. Although this was the unbounded land, he didn't have Yin Ruoyao by his side, and she didn't have Mo by CI by her side. How perfect was this? If it was always like this, it wouldn't be bad. "Oh," she softly replied. She didn't stay any longer as she continued forward. Without knowing why, there was a bad feeling in her heart, and this feeling was becoming stronger. Whenever she had this premonition, something bad would always happen. But now she was afraid. She was afraid of this premonition that was like a death announcement. "Qingchun, don't wander off." Li Jinfeng quickly caught up and grabbed her sleeve as he said, "This is an unbounded land that is like a dark space. Unfortunately, no living being has survived for thousands of years." "So," Luo Qingchun's eyes turned cold, and she flicked her sleeve. She looked at Li Jinfeng in front of her and said, "Are you sitting there waiting for others to save you?" She really didn't like the man in front of her. Sometimes, fickle men were far more unpleasant than ruthless villains. Lord Bai Si's ability is far above yours and mine, not to mention that he is a Heaven's Fate Master. This trip to the Dead Pond, he must have already calculated it. Although Li Jinfeng was very unwilling, he still recognized Mo by Si's abilities. After all, the title of the top mage of the Void Residence wasn't just for show. "Li Jinfeng, did you forget what you just said?" Luo Qingchun said in an extremely cold voice. "This is the unbounded land. He can't use any magic power." After saying this, she didn't even look back as she headed in the direction of the exquisite ring. Only the unsettled feeling in her heart became even stronger. Li Jinfeng was right about one thing. Chapter 324. At the same time, in the fire refining cave, the youth's moon white robe was already dyed red by blood, and the blood kept dripping down drop by drop. His eyes were tightly closed, and that ice-cold, beautiful face was as white as paper. The red lotus hellfire had already cut through all his meridians and pierced into his bones. "Good." Yin Ruoyao looked at Mo by CI in front of her, and her lips kept trembling. The blood-red red lotus orb appeared in her right hand as she looked at him and said, "You force me." He looked down, and the moment he sensed the red lotus orb, his lips curled into a faint smile. Finally, it was time for the tribulation. The eerie fire refining cave was instantly lit up by the red lotus orb. There were 101 large holes at the top of the fire refining cave, releasing a strange aura. The red lotus orb slowly rose up in Yin Ruoyao's hand, only stopping when it reached the largest hole. The air was filled with killing intent as Yin Ruoyao chanted the treasure-driving spell that Su Qingxia gave her. After a few seconds, the red lotus orb slowly opened and quickly began to spin. Hong Long. After that, a blood-red light slashed down in Mo by C's direction. The air was filled with the thick smell of blood, but the smile on the young man covered in blood became even more intense. He silently moved his lips and said one. Mo by CI. Yin Ruoyao saw that he didn't react at all. He took the Blood Demon Hall's sacred item, the Red Lotus Orb's sacred flame blood-red light, without any intention of begging for mercy. With the power of this treasure, if this person wasn't a Mo by CI, he would have already turned to ashes. Why? Why was everyone in the world protecting Luo Qingchun? Moreover, they were all risking their lives to protect her. A single Luo Qingchun, was it worth it? She tightly gritted her teeth, and the red light in her hand became even stronger. She raised her right hand and activated the red lotus orb again. Instantly, there was a blood-red light that slashed down in MO by C's direction. Unhumph. He gave a grunt as his primordial spirit was faintly discernible. 2. This word was uttered in his heart because he no longer had the strength to speak. MO by CI. If you give me Luo, Qingshun, and the Starlight Sword, I'll let you and Jin Feng return to the Void Residence. Dead silence. Dead silence. Fine. Then you can go to hell in her place. Yin Ruo Yao took a deep breath. Her eyes were bloodshot. She raised her hand slightly, and the red lotus orb spun rapidly. 101 blood-red light gathered together and slashed out in MO by C's direction. He closed his eyes, and his heart that had been hanging in the air finally settled down. Actually, he didn't know if he could block the 3 red lotus orbs' sacred fire and bloodlight. He only knew that the red lotus orbs were her heavenly tribulation, and he absolutely couldn't let her bear it. All the gods knew that the Blood Demon Hall's holy artifact, the red lotus pearl, could only be activated once every 1,000 years. Furthermore, it could only be used 3 times. The constellation god told him that 100 years ago, the 1,000-year cherry blossom spirit chanted the ancient sacrificial incantation to seal the demon monarch. From then on, she was destined to bear the baptism of the red lotus orb. This was her heavenly tribulation. She couldn't avoid it forever. But today, he had used a perverted method. He had broken the heavenly tribulation that should have been hers. No, there was a heart-rending voice that came from a distance. After that, large amounts of cherry blossoms fell all around, and the air was filled with the scent of cherry blossoms. Don't come over. It was like he used all his strength to shout out the voice in his heart. The exquisite ring on her hand lit up with a golden liguang and instantly charged in front of him. The red lotus vines that were originally trapping him quickly retracted the moment they came into contact with the golden light. In the blink of an eye, he hugged her and firmly protected her under him. Chapter 325. 3. MO by CI. Luo Qingshun tightly bit her lip as her tears fell down drop by drop, like a broken string of pearls. She really didn't want to cry. She really wanted to become stronger. She really wanted to protect the people she cared about. But why? Why couldn't she work no matter how hard she tried? I'm willing to use the name of my God to allow the person I'm thinking of to not be disturbed by the present world, to not be worried about the future. His cold voice rang in her ears word for word. After he said this, Luo Qingshun was surrounded by a light blue glow. It was a good thing that he protected her at the last moment. Finally at the last moment, he used all his strength to take the 3 blood-red bolts of thunder from the red lotus orb for her. As soon as he finished speaking, his vision turned black and he lost all consciousness. This was the first time in his life that he had lost consciousness. But without knowing why, his heart was incomparably calm. The feeling of taking the disaster for her, it really was good. Dang, affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 80%. Royale. Li Jinfeng charged in, and seeing Yin Ruo Yao in her red clothes, his eyes were filled with disbelief. Yin Ruo Yao trembled when she saw Li Jinfeng. Her heart was a bit unsettled, but she still looked incomparably calm. She looked up slightly and softly said through her red lips, "You can't run away. You don't have any powers in the unbounded land, and you can't leave." She knew that she still had compassion when facing Li Jinfeng. After all, that man had gone through a love tribulation with her. But she was very clear in her heart who she loved. She loved Su Qingxie. She was willing to do anything for him. She was willing to do anything. Luo Qingshun took a deep breath and tightly hugged the young man in her embrace. His eyes were tightly closed, and his long lashes fell onto his white skin. It was as peaceful as a painting, so beautiful. But when her fingers touched his blood-soaked robes, her heart couldn't help feeling pain. His breathing was very weak, like his primordial spirit would scatter at any moment and turn to ashes. It's not up to you to decide whether we can leave or not. In the next second, Her gaze turned cold, and the haze in her eyes seemed to freeze people. She slowly stood up, and the exquisite ring on her hand was covered in Mo by C's blood. The golden light around it seemed even stronger. "Take him away first." Luo Qingshun knit her brows and softly said to Li Jinfeng beside her. "You, all right." Li Jinfeng knew that he was just a mortal in the unbounded land. Not only could he not do anything, he could even cause trouble for her. In the next second, she leaped into the air. Gathering the power of the exquisite ring in one place, he attacked Yin Ruo Yao. "You overestimate yourself." Yin Ruo withdrew the red lotus orb, and the surroundings instantly turned dark. Luo Qingshun snorted lightly and extinguished the golden light of the exquisite ring. She slowly landed on the ground in the opposite direction. In an instant, she chanted the incantation of the Cherry Blossom clan. Countless cherry blossom petals danced in the air, blocking the faint light of the fire cavern. In an instant, the surroundings fell into darkness. Luo Qingshun, Yin Ruo Yao knew that she had been tricked and angrily roared out. She lit up the fire cavern again, but Luo Qingshun had already disappeared. She was very clear that she could escape this quickly without being caught by Yin Ruo Yao, because of the incantation he had placed on her before he fainted. This was a kind of protective barrier. How could there be this kind of person in this world? He could shatter his bones and be covered in wounds. But he still stubbornly protected you, not letting you suffer a single injury. Chapter 326. Ancient Castle, Sacred Land. Li Jinfeng didn't know how he ran here. He just knew that he was carrying Mo by Ci in the opposite direction, running to the end of the unbounded land. Heaven and earth met here, and everything was connected. The ancient castle was built at the border of the interstellar sea. He stopped moving and looked at the dark blood-colored castle, as his heart couldn't help trembling. There were rushed footsteps that slowly came from not far away. Was it Yin Ruo Yao, or "It's me"? Luo Qingshun came out of the red lotus bushes on the side, and the exquisite ring in her hand lit up in Liguan. Like it sensed something, there was a golden glow. "Qingshun, you scared me to death." Li Jinfeng let out a long sigh of relief. I thought it was... He didn't know why Yin Ruo Yao became like this, but he suddenly found that he was a bit afraid of her. In this unbounded land where he couldn't use magic, he was useless. "Don't say this much." Luo Qingshun looked up at the dark castle in front of her and said with pursed lips, "She will find us soon. We have to find a starlight sword as soon as possible." "The starlight sword is here?" Li Jinfeng looked at her in surprise. "How did you know?" The exquisite ring reacted. Her gaze landed on the youth who was sleeping peacefully and covered in blood, and she slowly opened her mouth to speak. "Just now when we were in the Dead Soul Sea swamp, no matter how I used it, there was no way to create a resonance between the divine weapons. But in the unbounded land, even if I didn't use it, it would have a large reaction." Luo Qingshun looked around before heading into the castle. The ring on her right hand flickered, like it was looking for the most suitable resonance. Li Jinfeng followed behind her, as Mo by C's blood on his back dyed his clothes red. He always thought that Mo by Ci was a very powerful person, but he never thought that the respected Destiny Master of the Heaven-Falling continent couldn't calculate his situation in the unbounded land. I feel that it's impossible for Sir by Ci to not calculate his current situation. Before leaving, did he tell you anything or give you anything? Li Jinfeng's voice was very soft, but Luo Qingshun still heard it. She abruptly stopped in her tracks as she recalled the 3 brocade pouches he had given her before she left. "Did you think of something?" Li Jinfeng saw the sparkle in her eyes as Li Guang and quickly asked this. Luo Qingshun took out the 3 pouches Mo by Ci gave her, and her eyes couldn't help misting over. The seal of the brocade pouch no longer had the light blue spiritual power. She pursed her lips and opened the brocade pouch according to the order. But when she opened the first brocade pouch, her clear eyes instantly reddened. "Just what did you write? Tell me." Li Jinfeng saw her tightly biting her lip and couldn't help feeling anxious for her. She didn't respond. Instead, she opened the second brocade pouch. The next second, The third, after a long while, the surrounding air seemed to have frozen. She looked at Mo by Ci, whose face was as white as paper and whose body was covered in blood, and her mind couldn't help falling into a daze. She felt the hand holding the brocade pouch couldn't help trembling. Her eyes were filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. No, she couldn't cry and couldn't be weak. There were some things that were destined to happen. There were some people that were destined to meet. But there would always be a person who would go all out to change fate, reversing fate. Chapter 327. Ching Chun. Li Jinfeng softly called out to her, breaking her train of thought. Just what was written in these 3 pouches that made her this absent-minded. There was a bit of jealousy in his heart, but there was nothing he could do about it. There's nothing in the pouches. She narrowed her eyes and looked around. Let's find another way out. She took a deep breath and suppressed all the thoughts in the bottom of her heart. After all, Mo by Ci couldn't hold on for much longer. She was afraid that his primordial spirit would scatter in front of her in the next moment, turning to ashes. There was a strong black energy in the ancient castle. It came from the depths of the unbounded land. Ha, ha, ha. Is the ancient castle a place you can come to? A strange laugh came from outside the ancient castle, bringing with it a chill and killing intent. Let's go this way. The exquisite ring in her hand led them forward. They moved very quickly, and with the light of the exquisite ring, they quickly arrived at the center of the ancient castle. God, there's actually this kind of place in this world. Li Jinfeng looked at the center of the ancient castle in front of him, and he was stunned on the spot. There were rows of red lotuses that seemed to grow from the ground, forming vines that filled the sky, reaching into the endless clouds. There was an endless abyss in the center of the circle, like one would be shattered if they fell in. Is the highest vine the way out of the secret realm? Li Jinfeng's eyes lit up. Seeing the faint barrier light, he said to Luo Qingqian beside him, "You think you can leave?" After that, Yin Ruo Yao had already caught up. She was wearing a red dress, standing in the middle of the red lotuses, looking very sinister and terrifying. "You take him away first." Luo Qingqian's eyes turned cold as she softly pushed Li Jinfeng away. Li Jinfeng gritted his teeth. He carried Mo by Ci while climbing up the red lotus vines. After that, Luo Qingqian turned around and looked at Yin Ruo Yao with cold eyes. "Then you have to have the skills. Today, I will let you die under the karmic fire of the red lotus." After saying that, Yin Ruo Yao quickly attacked her. Luo Qingqian frowned and clenched her fists tightly. Her eyes were filled with determination. If they wanted to fight, let her fight this battle. Although she was only a small cherry blossom demon, she had the exquisite ring in her hand. In this unbounded land, her magic power was not completely gone. Although it was weak, it could still withstand 1 or 2 attacks. Yin Ruoyao's attacks were extremely ruthless. Every move was fatal. She dodged with all her might just to give them more time to escape. However, he was still injured. She leaned against the red lotus vines, blood seeping out of the corner of her mouth, sweat beads on her forehead, and she gasped for breath. Seeing that Li Jinfeng was about to reach the barrier, her heart was filled with worry. Yin Ruo Yao looked at her with disdain and snorted, "I only wanted to take your life." As soon as her voice fell, she raised the empty spirit sword and prepared for the final attack in Luo Qingqian's direction. She looked over, and the exquisite ring's golden light was already at its peak, as the vines behind her began to heat up. In the next second, a faint smile appeared on her face as she raised her eyebrows and asked, "Are you sure?" After saying this, she closed her eyes. Raising her right hand, the exquisite ring's golden light filled the sky, and the red lotus vines released a faint blue light. That light became stronger and stronger. Chapter 328. Yin Ruo Yao didn't retreat as she bit her red lips and said, "I want your life." She hated her. It was filled with endless hatred. Even if Su Qingxie told her not to harm her life, she still wanted to kill her. Moreover, she wanted to kill her even more. Based on what? The man she loved for such a long time would let her off so easily. In her eyes, Su Qingxie had never done this before. This was his first time. In the blink of an eye, Luo Qingchun gripped the starlight sword and a large amount of power entered her body. Qingchun. Li Jinfeng shouted from the red and white barrier. Quickly come up. After that, Luo Qingchun waved the starlight sword, and a large amount of sword chi came from the red lotus hellfire on the ground. The flames sent everything around her flying half a meter away. She quickly moved forward and grabbed a vine to climb up, not hesitating at all. She wasn't a saint. Why would she give up her life when she had a chance to escape? Yin Ruo Yao instantly reacted. There was a flame in her hand as she angrily roared out with the red lotus hellfire. Since it's like this, none of you can leave. After saying this, the red lotus hellfire below her shot out in all directions, spreading up the vines inch by inch. She tightly knit her brows and desperately tried to climb up. Shio, several dozen flames flew in her direction. It was filled with heat, with the aura of death. A sea of fire was reflected in her clear eyes. She raised her head and looked at the distance between her and them. It was too late. Catch! Luo Qingchun threw the starlight sword in her hand at Li Jinfeng and said, "You can all leave." Pai Pa. As soon as her voice fell, the flames charged up and the vines were instantly broken. There was a burning sensation that came from her hand. After that, she closed her eyes. The vines were burned, and she felt like her body had lost all support. But when she was about to fall into the endless abyss, a slightly cold hand grabbed her firmly. His fingertips were still dripping with blood, but he seemed to be using all his strength to hold her arm. Mo by Ci. Luo Qingchun looked up slightly, looking at Mo by Ci in disbelief. He had already slid down from Li Jinfeng's back, and his other hand was tightly holding the starlight sword's blade. The hilt of the sword was held by Li Jinfeng. Just like this, the three of them were hanging in the air like stairs. Don't let go. He opened his eyes slightly, and a faint liguang flashed in his starry eyes. His thin lips and teeth made an extremely soft sound. It was still cool and pleasant to the ears. Let go of me. She could feel a stream of blood flowing down her arm at an extremely fast speed. She only felt a sharp pain in her heart. She looked at his pale face, as if he would disappear in the next second. She just wants me dead. She closed her eyes and tried to calm herself down. You really... Cuckoo, he said with a soft sigh. You want me to let go? Luo Qingchun's heart trembled. Seeing him slightly knit his brows, she thought that he was finally changing his mind and letting go of her hand. After all, he was the only destiny master on the heaven-falling continent. After all, his life was related to the entire void residence, related to the people of the world. After all, he couldn't waste his chance to escape just to save a small cherry blossom demon. After that, she desperately nodded as her tears fell, as if she was saying goodbye to him. All right, he nodded. Seeing her teary eyes, his lips curled into a smile as he said, I'll go with you. After saying this, he let go of the starlight sword's blade, and with the force of the fall, he softly took her into his embrace. He hugged her like this as they fell into the endless abyss. As she fell, 3 pieces of paper with elegant handwriting fell from her arms. Each piece of paper had a word written on it. They were, Me love, Chapter 329. Sorry, Luo Qingchun. There is no world in my heart, and no common people. There has always been only you. Endless abyss, life and death. She closed her eyes and felt the power in her body gathering, like it was breaking through a giant seal. A kind of heat. In her mind, the scene of the word-tied Bay battle from 100 years ago kept appearing. The sky that day was bustling with cherry blossoms falling down. The sky was half bright and half dark. That was a battle to protect the full Spirit County. She thought it would be a difficult battle, but she never thought that a white-clothed youth would suddenly appear and reverse all the disadvantages. He was the #1 spirit spell master of the Void Residence, the only destiny master of the heaven-falling continent, Mo by Ci. That day, he was wearing clothes as white as snow, and his face was reflected in the mist. The only thing that could be seen was his hair that was as black as ink, flowing like a waterfall, and his every move was like a painting. She was a bit surprised. She didn't know who the youth in front of her was or where he came from. She only knew that he was standing in the half-bright and half-dark border of the sky, looking indescribably good. The demon monarch couldn't win in the end and took out the red lotus orb, wanting to die with this world. Mo by CI wanted to sacrifice his life to stop it, but he found that the sky was filled with cherry blossoms that blinded his eyes. After that, before he could even react, the girl in the snow cherry blossom robe had already chanted the ancient sacrificial spell, and there was a dazzling white light that filled the sky. The sky was filled with cherry blossoms, and the youth tightly knit his brows as he lost all his senses. Memories filled her mind, and large amounts of spiritual energy gathered in her body. Scorching hot blood quickly flowed through his body, and his entire body was suffused with a cherry blossom-colored spiritual light. Pong! Instantly, all her spiritual energy gathered above her head. She tightly knit her brows and used all her strength to break through the barrier. In that instant, she suddenly opened her eyes and found that she was in the center of the Dead Soul Sea Pond. There was no one beside her. There was only the faint blue spiritual energy that formed Liguang fragments that surrounded her. Luo Qingshan felt her breathing stop as she slightly pursed her lips and silently said, "Mo, Bison." She looked around her. This should be the real world, no doubt about it. It turned out that the intersection of red and blue on the red lotus vine was not a secret realm that led to the outside world from the unbounded land. The real passageway was the bottomless abyss they had fallen into. Only by sacrificing one's body would one be able to survive. "I didn't expect you to find the secret realm." Yin Royale's voice came from not far away. As a little demon who once guarded the unbounded land, she was the only one who could freely travel through it. Luo Qingshan frowned. Her moon-white robe was already stained with blood. At this moment, her eyes were filled with a deathly stillness. She clenched her fists tightly. The power in her body was so strong that all the strange red lotus bushes around her lost their color. She turned around indifferently, her eyes filled with murderous intent. She raised her head and looked at Yin Royale. And then, Yin Royale's red lips curled as her eyes turned blood red. She slightly raised the blood-red, empty spirit sword in her hand to look at her and said, "On this day next year, it will be your death sacrifice, all right?" As soon as her voice fell, she jumped out and pointed her sword at Luo Qingshan, filled with anger and killing intent. Pong pong, there was a giant sound. Chapter 330. Ah, a painful, pitiful cry came from the air. Yin Royale was sent flying several meters away. There was a sweet taste in her mouth as she spat out a mouthful of blood. Yin Royale's eyes opened wide as she looked at Luo Qingshan in front of her in disbelief. No, how was this possible? How could she have this kind of strength? This was the Dead Soul Sea Pond. According to the barriers set up by the demon race's Fourth Highness Su Qingxia, as long as someone who wasn't a demon entered the Dead Soul Sea Pond, their spiritual energy would be halved. At this moment, she felt that her strength in the Dead Soul Sea Pond was very weak. It's not because your spiritual energy is weak. Luo Qingshan, not far away, narrowed her eyes as she said with a cold snort, "It's because in front of me, you're already very weak." "What did you say?" Yin Royale stood up while holding her chest. Her right hand kept trembling as she picked up the empty spirit sword. She kept panting as she said, "Die, pong pong." With a gentle flick of her sleeve, Yin Royale was slammed to the ground. The air was filled with the scent of cherry blossoms, and pink petals filled the air. "Do you have anything else to say?" she coldly said. Looking at Yin Royale on the ground, her eyes did not have a trace of warmth. Yin Royale's head was dizzy from this palm, and she almost fainted. She gritted her teeth and forced herself to stand up as she said, "You're not. Luo Qingshan, just who are you?" As a member of the Blood Demon Hall, could it be that you don't know how the Demon Monarch was sealed 100 years ago? She looked at Yin Royale and narrowed her eyes. Every word was ice cold. "How do you know your age?" Yin Royale took in a cold breath as her eyes stared right at her. During the Battle of Word Tide Bay in the past, Although she was undergoing tribulation in the mortal world, she had heard many people mention it after returning to the Void residence. It was said that the Full Spirit County's 1,000-year-old cherry blossom spirit used an ancient sacrificial spell to seal the Blood Demon Hall's most powerful demon monarch. In the past, I was the one who personally sealed the demon monarch. She nodded and her eyes were cold. That's why I don't have 90% of my chi. Now, all of his magical power had returned. However, the youth who had once fought alongside him had disappeared. Yen Ruo Yao faced the sky and laughed. Blood flowed from her 7 orifices. At this time, Yen Ruo Yao's face was extremely distorted. She looked like a clown that had been knocked down. She didn't have the slightest ability to resist. But so what? She broke out in laughter as she shouted, "Mo by CI is already dead. Don't you know?" She was startled and felt as if her heart was being pressed down by 1,000 gold boulder. Even breathing became extremely difficult. The feeling of suffocation. Judging from your eyes, I'm afraid you don't know. Yen Ruo Yao's red lips curled up, revealing an extremely strange smile as she looked at her and said, "Otherwise, what do you think those fragments of blue light around you are?" Yen Ruo Yao. Her voice trembled slightly. In an instant, the exquisite ring on her finger began to shine brightly. When she received the original owner's memories, she only felt anger, but never hatred. But in that moment, the depths of her heart was filled with hatred. Using hatred to cover her weakness, to cover her fear. After that, the exquisite ring's golden light shot out in Yen Ruo Yao's direction without any hesitation. Yen Ruo Yao used all her spiritual energy to create a barrier, but it instantly collapsed. In an instant, the golden light passed through her arteries. Chapter 331. She softly stepped forward and came in front of Yen Ruo Yao, stepping on the blood that came out of her. She looked down at her and said, "Then you can be buried with him." Yen Ruo Yao's eyes turned white as she spat out blood, while saying her final words in a hoarse voice. Even if I become a ghost, I won't let you off. If you become a ghost, you will be even weaker than your current half-human, half-demon, half appearance." After saying this, she turned and flicked her sleeve, never looking back again. There was no joy or satisfaction in her heart. Rather, it was empty, like she had lost the most important thing. She searched the Dead Soul Sea Pond for 10 days and 10 nights, but she couldn't find Mo by CI or Li Jin foam. It wasn't until the light blue light on her body completely disappeared that she finally left the land of red lotuses like a walking corpse. She didn't return to the Void residence. Rather, she returned to the Full Spirit County's hot spring inn, that place where she first met him. Perhaps she would feel that perhaps that person had returned to the Void residence. Perhaps he was still alive. Time passed very quickly, and in the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. The thing she did the most each day was sit beside Mr. Tanuki and tell him stories about the heaven-falling continent. Half a year ago, the weather changed, and the righteous and evil factions fought a bloody battle in the unbounded land of the Dead Soul Sea Pond. It said that they fought for 81 days before the Void Residence's Destiny Master and our Full Spirit County's Miss Cherry Blossom Spirit worked together to win. Then, the group of little Tanuki excitedly asked this. Then, Mr. Tanuki took a sip of wine from the jug beside him before slowly saying, of course they had feelings for each other and lived in seclusion, living the life of an immortal couple. Hearing this, the corners of her mouth lifted slightly, revealing an extremely faint smile. If it really was like what the storyteller Tanuki said, how good would that be? She didn't keep listening and slowly stood up, preparing to leave. Big Sister Cherry Blossom. A familiar voice entered her ears. Turning around, she saw an old friend she hadn't seen in a long time. Xiao Qing and the Little Mushroom. Lady Luo. Xiao Qing carried Little Mushroom and walked forward. He looked at her with clear eyes and said, "Long time no see." She softly replied, forcibly suppressing all the thoughts in her heart. Sometimes, the pain and longing buried in the bottom of his heart. Just because you saw an old friend that you used to be familiar with, your emotions would instantly surge. Lady Luo, 3 days ago, there was a strange movement at the observatory of the void residence. Shao Qing said with a frown, "Little Mushroom said that you would most likely return here, so I came to try my luck." Abnormal movement? Her clear eyes slightly lit up, and her breathing became sluggish as she looked at him and said, "It has nothing to do with him." Shao Qing interrupted her awkwardly. "I'm afraid the Devil Monarch seal is about to be broken." Hearing this, Luo Qingchun bit her lips, her eyes flickering with liguang. She looked at him and said, "What's the use of looking for me for this kind of thing?" Lord Taibai Jinxing said 100 years ago, "Apologies in my heart, there is no world." She looked at Shao Qing with a cold gaze, each word like a gem. In this life, she had already used her life to save the so-called world once, and now she didn't have the strength to do so again. It didn't matter if she was selfish or petty. Everyone had the right to choose their life. For example, why did those self-proclaimed righteous people still send people to find her when the enemy was right in front of them? Could it be that they weren't selfish? After a long time, Shao Qing smiled and said, "You and him are really similar." Chapter 332. Shao Qing didn't say anything. Rather, he took the flashy sword from behind him and gave it to her as he said, "I think that he can't bear to part with you." In that instant, tears fell down. She took the flashy sword and tightly held it in her hand. She felt that she could feel the aura he had left on this sword. The little mushroom softly jumped out of Shao Qing's embrace, and its colorful mushroom head slowly rubbed against her feet as it said, "Big sister cherry blossom and little mushroom." Shao Qing said with a sigh, "I'll leave little mushroom to you." "All right," she replied with a slight nod. After she said goodbye to Shao Qing, there were many things in her heart that she couldn't let go of. Saving the world, was it his unfinished wish? If it was, she would give up her life to complete it for him. It wasn't that hard. But would his wish be this? She had personally sealed the demon monarch 100 years ago. Naturally, she could feel the day he broke the seal. The thousands of spirit spell masters of the Void Residence gathered at the Word-Tide Bay. They were bound to fight a large battle with the Blood Demon Hall. When she arrived with the flashy sword, the demon monarch had already broken the seal. The Word-Tide Bay was filled with blood, and it was like a burial mound, filled with corpses. Ha 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 ha. An arrogant laugh rang out. The demon monarch stood at the highest point of the clouds in his red armor, looking down at the sea of blood. His abnormal red eyes looked down at them as he said, "This monarch urges you to give up on your useless resistance. This world will belong to our Blood Demon Hall." Arrogant fool. The Void Residence's spirit spell masters led by the Star Monarch resisted with all their might. Su Qing Xie stood beside the demon monarch, looking for that cherry blossom figure among the thousands of people with a bit of panic in his eyes. If he didn't see her, he would miss her. If he saw her, he would be worried. Then it was better not to see her. The extremely strong red power in the sky desperately crashed into the light blue barrier erected by the Void Residence. Again and again, the loud sounds filled everyone's ears. The protective circle of the barrier continued to shrink, and with each fierce attack, it became weaker and weaker. "Today, even if this old man dies here, I will bring you down with me." The Star-Lord's body moved, using all the spiritual energy in his body to form the final protective barrier. He leapt with all his might and attacked the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord revealed an extremely evil smile. His body transformed into dark red smoke as he charged in the direction of the Star-Lord. Bang! Bang! An extremely powerful impact came from the sky. The Star Sovereign lay flat as he slowly descended from the sky. His entire body was covered in blood. Star Monarch. Several disciples of the Void Residence hurriedly went up to help him into the barrier. In the next second, the Devil Lord's body was surrounded by the light of blood. With a sinister smile, he looked at the people below and said, "Since you don't want to surrender, then say goodbye to this world." As soon as he finished speaking, the color of the sky changed. Dark clouds covered the sky, and everything was blood red. Rumble! Huge red lightning bolts struck down one after another. The entire continent was like hell on earth. Luo Qingchun, who was standing in the dark, frowned. She nodded slightly and looked at the dark sky and the streaks of fiery red lightning. At this moment, it reminded her of the unbounded land. Perhaps some things had to end where they started. In her heart, there was no world, no people. But if he wanted to protect this world, then she would do her best to fulfill his wish. Chapter 333. In the next second, she leaped. The air was filled with a strong cherry blossom aura as thousands of cherry blossom petals danced in the air. She held the flashy sword in her hand and was surrounded by flames and lightning. In an instant, she became the center of everyone's attention. "Ah, you've finally appeared." The demon monarch roared out in excitement. Even his eyes were filled with flames. Anger, unwillingness, and hatred all mixed together, bringing with it a cold, killing intent and a strong, bloody aura that filled the air. If it wasn't for her and M.O. by C.I. 100 years ago, how could the respected Blood Demon Hall's demon monarch have been sealed in the unbounded land space and time's secret realm for 100 years? If it wasn't for a powerful spiritual energy accidentally falling down and adding in the weakening of the seal after 100 years, he wouldn't have been able to come out of the seal. Right now, he finally had a chance to take revenge for 100 years. "Father, please let your son fight for you." Su Qingxie came forward with a deep look in his eyes. "Big brother Qingxie, I'll go with you." Meng Ling pursed her lips and looked at him with a worried gaze. Meng Ling was Lord Meng Mo's only daughter, Su Qingxie's playmate since they were young. In the future, she would be his wife. Since they were born, this marriage was set by the demon monarch and Lord Meng Mo, a marriage that belonged to the demon world. "No, all right." When Su Qingxie was about to reject, the demon monarch roared out. His eyes were filled with blood and joy as he said, "Let father see the two of you work together." Luo Qingqian flicked her sleeve and her eyes were incomparably cold as she softly said, "Come together." As soon as her voice fell, she charged at Su Qingxie with the flashy sword in her hand. Although it was strong, it wasn't fatal. "Big brother Qingxie, I'll help you." Meng Ling shook her green bell and flew into the air. The bell was clear and melodious, but made people feel dazed. Ding-dang. Luo Qingqian felt the sound of the bell pass through her defenses and enter her mind. The scene in front of her was like a fog, like there was an illusion around her. In the illusion, there was a gentle breeze, and a white-clothed youth was standing under a cherry blossom tree with his back to her. That kind of tranquility and beauty don't listen. Su Qingxie saw that her expression was a bit blank, so he deliberately attacked in her direction. While he was fighting, he softly whispered 2 words in her ear. With a wave of the sword in his right hand, a layer of skin was cut off from her wrist. Bright red blood flowed out slowly, bringing with it a slight pain. Luo Qingqian sobered up and a faint pink glow appeared on the tip of her right hand as she attacked the dream spirit weapon. Ding-ling, the green bell was sent flying and fell to the ground. The fog-like illusion in front of him suddenly disappeared. Her brows slightly knit as she looked at Su Qingxie in front of her with a confused look in her eyes. In the next second, before she could even react, Su Qingxie was already attacking in her direction, but she jumped out of the way. "Surrender. You can't beat father." In the flames and thunder, she heard Su Qingxie's anxious voice, and even his moves became messy. In an instant, she frowned and made up her mind. Raising her right hand, the golden light of the exquisite ring came out in layers. Pong! She broke through Su Qingxie's defenses and slammed a palm into his chest, using 50% of her spiritual energy. It wasn't light or heavy, but at least it could stop him from participating in this battle. Chapter 334. You won't have the chance. The demon monarch's eyes were filled with a bit of panic since the girl in front of him was the one who had sealed him 100 years ago. After saying this, the sky changed color again as thunder and fire filled the sky. The waves of the word tide bay swept over like a mountain flood. The demon monarch jumped into the sky with the burning flame blood whip in his hand, suddenly attacking Luo Qingqian. Su Qingxie's body trembled, but he found that he couldn't move at all. There was a faint pink glow around him, and several cherry blossom petals fell around him. Damn! Su Qingxie tightly knit his brows as his heart filled with anxiety. He suddenly felt a bit of regret. He shouldn't have gone to the Dead Soul Sea Pond to stop them from taking the Starlight Sword. If it wasn't for the Starlight Sword, they wouldn't have opened the Unbounded Land's secret realm. Then his father wouldn't have broken the seal that quickly. Thinking of this, he felt that he was a bit unfilial. But if he had to use Luo Qingqian's life to exchange for it, he would rather the world laugh at him for being unfilial. He still remembered the first time they met. Her clear eyes sparkled slightly. It was probably at that time that some emotions slowly spread in his heart. He didn't know what it was. He just knew that if they had a chance to meet again, he would be very happy. But he never thought that they would meet again in the Dead Soul Sea Pond. Yin Ruo Yao never told him that someone named Luo Qingqian was coming. She just said that the Void residents had sent their #1 spirit spell master to find the sacred item, the Starlight Sword. For this sword, the Blood Demon Hall had to obtain it, so naturally they couldn't let them steal it. But who would have thought that he would meet her in the Dead Soul Sea Pond? The first time, in the Hot Spring Inn, he couldn't steal her from Mo by C's hands. The second time, in the Dead Soul Sea Pond, he faced Mo by Ci, who only had half his strength. He used all his spiritual energy, but he still lost. The third time, in the Word Tide Bay, she didn't have Mo by Ci by her side, but he had become her enemy. But she didn't participate in the battle for him and used her spiritual energy to restrict him. Boom! The power of the fire and lightning grew stronger and stronger, continuously covering the only place with light. Luo Qingqian pursed her lips, sweat beads on her forehead, and her right hand holding the exquisite ring unconsciously trembled slightly. The demon monarch was indeed very powerful. No wonder the original owner had to rely on the ancient sacrificial incantation to seal him. This powerful force directly shattered the protective barrier erected by the suspended residents underground. Everyone fell to the ground, struck by the fire and lightning. Wails of anguish filled the air, as if it was hell on earth. 1,000-year cherry blossom spirit, it's you, right? It can only be you. At this moment, the demon monarch's body emitted black smoke. He slightly opened his palm, revealing the red lotus pearl. So what if it's me? So what if it's not me? She nodded abruptly, her eyes cold and indifferent. She said softly, "Isn't the result the same?" In the next second, she gently closed her eyes, and her eyes were filled with the figure of that cold young man. The young man who had always been protecting her. The young man who had never rejected her. The young man who used his mortal body to bear the heavenly tribulation for her in the unbounded land. Finally, I can't accompany you. I swear to the heavens, to sacrifice my body to the gods, to think, Pong. When she was chanting the ancient sacrificial incantation, there was a powerful force that sent her flying. The dark clouds in the sky instantly dispersed, and the only bright spot in the sky gradually opened up inch by inch. Chapter 335. A youth wearing a moon-white robe slowly fell down from the sky. He stood in the wild wind, looking very calm. Luo Qingqian looked at this white figure and felt like her heart was about to jump out. Nervous, expectant, and afraid, all kinds of complicated emotions were mixed together, just so that the moment the youth turned around, it would be that familiar figure. "It's you." The demon monarch's expression changed as he looked at the youth in front of him in disbelief. He said through gritted teeth, "You're actually still alive. The unbounded land space and time domain, the way you came out is the same way I came in." Mo by C's cold words clearly rang through the heaven-falling continent. It was like a ray of hope that shined into her heart without any warning. When they fell from the endless abyss that day, he accidentally fell into the unbounded land space and time domain. He thought that even if his primordial spirit didn't scatter, he wouldn't be able to live for long. But he never thought that the space and time domain would be filled with spiritual energy. The spiritual energy in this place could suppress the demons on one hand, while also helping cultivators increase their strength. He spent half a year recovering his strength and looking for a way out. Finally, in the depths of the space, he found traces of the demon monarch. But at that time, He had already escaped. The demon monarch's eyes had a fierce, killing intent as he looked at Mo by Ci and said, "If you can beat me, that cherry blossom demon from 100 years ago wouldn't have needed to chant the ancient sacrificial spell. Not to mention that I already know the path to the space and time domain. So even if it's the ancient sacrificial spell, this monarch isn't afraid of it at all. I won't let her chant the spell a second time." His deep eyes were incomparably cold, like the stars in the sky dimming. There was a faint killing intent in them. "As for you, I think that this world already can't hold you." As soon as his voice fell, there was a wisp of white smoke that softly circled around Luo Qingqian's wrist. The flashy sword seemed to sense its master's aura as it excitedly flew into the sky, landing in Mo by Ci's hand with a shio sound. The instant he raised the flashy sword, he was like a king that ruled the world, looking down on the tens of thousands of miles of land and its citizens. His eyes, which were as deep as the ocean, carried a natural domineering aura. Luo Qingqian was trapped in place and couldn't move at all. Properly speaking, although Mo by Ci's spiritual energy was strong, she had recovered 90% of her power, so it was impossible for her not to break his imprisonment. By Ci, the star monarch not far away looked at Mo by Ci in the sky with a look of shock. His lips quivered as he said, "He actually became a god." The heaven-falling continent couldn't compare to other places. There had only been a single god in tens of thousands of years. It was the constellation god who had chosen Mo by Ci as the heaven master. If he wanted to become a god, he would have to go through a heavenly tribulation that he didn't even know about. He would have to endure immense pain and encounter unprecedented opportunities to have a chance. Luo Qingqian nodded slightly and looked at the young man in the sky. He was surrounded by pale, blue spirit light and layers of golden light. It was as if a powerful force was spreading throughout his body. No wonder when he used a bit of spiritual energy, he was able to firmly imprison her in place. No wonder it looked like an intense battle from afar, but the demon monarch couldn't stop his attacks at all. After several dozen rounds, there was almost no flame-red lightning in the sky. The clear blue sky covered the darkness and lit up the entire heaven-falling continent. Chapter 336. The demon monarch's body was like a broken mirror, shattering piece by piece. His eyes were filled with disbelief as his dry lips quivered. How is this possible? Everything in this world is predetermined. Only by sacrificing one's life can one not die. After saying this, he flicked his sleeve and turned to leave. With a pong sound, the demon monarch's body exploded and turned to dust. His right hand softly moved and released Luo Qingqian's shackles. A wisp of white smoke brought her to his side. Sorry, his right hand took her waist, and there was a deep emotion in his eyes as he looked in her clear as water eyes. Luo Qingqian felt her nose turn sour as her eyes sparkled with liguang. It was like there were many things she wanted to ask, but she didn't know where to start. It was like there were many things she wanted to say, but she didn't know what to say. In short, it was good that he was back. In short, it was good that he was alive. Whether it was God, demon, monster, or immortal. In her heart, he was the Mo by Ci with cold eyes and incomparably hot heart. The sky was blue and the clouds were clear and bright. With the demon monarch dead, the blood demon hall was like a dragon without a head. Of the highnesses, Su Qingxie's power was the strongest. His other big brothers were all useless people, but they all knelt down the moment the demon monarch died and bowed their heads. The star monarch had a kind heart, so he didn't kill them all. He had them hand over the red lotus orb and never take a single step into the border again. Otherwise, the void residents would flatten the blood demon hall and slaughter 10,000 miles. This was the star monarch's words. With Su Qingxie as the leader, everyone accepted it unconditionally. This good and evil war, after 100 years, had finally come to an end. Mo by Ci didn't bring her back to the great wisdom hall and directly bid farewell to the star monarch. The star monarch didn't keep him because the most important reason was he couldn't keep him here, on the flashy sword. She didn't say a word. Her heart was very happy, but also a bit angry. Thinking back to when they were in the unbounded land, when he was covered in blood and blocked 3 heavenly lightning barriers for her. Her heart couldn't help but tremble. It was hard to imagine that there would be such a person in the world. He knew everything that would happen in the future. He knew that the pain was terrible, but he still looked indifferent and fearless. Some people said that death was not scary, but the process of anticipating death and waiting for death was the scariest. If you have anything you want to ask, just ask. His tone was very calm, but it carried a touch of warmth and gentleness. Now, whatever she wanted to know, there was no harm in him telling her. After all, the most dangerous moment had passed. From now on, in the heaven-falling continent, the sun, moon, and stars, he would be by her side. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 100%. Host, you can choose. You don't need to ask me this question in the future. Always choose yes. Oh, the system answered, feeling sorry for itself. She came back to her senses, took a deep breath, and asked, "Can you answer my 3 questions?" "Sure." She slightly raised her hand and took his moon-white robes. Her eyes turned red and tears almost came out. "You already knew that Unravel was from the Blood Demon Hall, right?" "Yes." He didn't even think, as he immediately replied. "You brought me to the Dead Soul Sea Pond because you promised the Star Monarch to find the Starlight Sword, and because of my heavenly tribulation, right?" "Yes." His voice was as calm as water, as if there were no waves in his voice at all. "Mo by Ci. And I'm here." He stopped flying and turned to look at her, with a pampering look in his eyes. He slowly looked up and softly stroked her hair as he said, "There's still one more question. Have you thought it through?" Luo Qingshun tightly bit her lip, not letting her tears fall down. She took a deep breath and looked at him as she asked the 3rd question. "You gave me 3 brocade bags because you knew you would die, right?" Chapter 337. Mo by Ci. She bit her lip, almost hysterically shouting these 3 words. But the youth holding her calmly and gently patted her back as he said in a soft voice, "But I didn't die, right?" He indeed didn't know if he could survive, but he knew that as long as he blocked the Red Lotus Hellfire's 3 bolts of heavenly thunder in the unbounded land with his mortal body, there would be no more disasters in her life. Thinking of this, he felt that everything he did was worth it. She didn't know why. She just knew that when she heard his cold and pampering voice, her tears couldn't stop falling. People would only show their weakest side in front of the most important person. Facing Unravel, her eyes never turned red. Facing the demon monarch, she never felt fear. But when Mo by Ci really whispered these words in her ear, she really wanted to cry. Perhaps this was how she should act in front of the person she liked. Luo Qingshun brought Mo by Ci back to the full Spirit County, the place she had lived for thousands of years. Mr. Tanuki was still talking about the battle of good and evil from a few days ago. The little elves sitting around the weekend were seriously listening. It's rumored the Void Residence's #1 Destiny Master and the 1,000-year-old Cherry Blossom Spirit heard that the Demon Monarch had broken his seal 100 years ago, so they decided to come out and subdue him. Mr. Tanuki drank as he spoke with relish. "Mister, then what happened?" A little wild-boar demon raised his little hand and asked, "Did they win?" "I heard that the Demon Monarch was enraged. The entire heaven-falling continent was filled with flames and thunder." "That's right. The sky suddenly became like that a few days ago. I was scared to death." Another little fox demon cut off Mr. Tanuki. "Speaking of this, do you still want to listen?" "You're not allowed to interrupt me." "Yes." Everyone was filled with enthusiasm as Mr. Tanuki excitedly continued. "That day, in the flames and thunder, the 1,000-year-old Cherry Blossom Spirit chanted the ancient sacrificial spell, and a white-clothed youth fell from the sky. He was like a god as he was surrounded by immortal energy." "Mr. Tanuki, did they defeat the Demon Monarch?" "Nonsense. If they didn't win, would you still be able to sit here and listen to stories?" "Dong." A large stone was thrown at Mr. Tanuki. Not far away, there was a small mushroom demon wearing a floral dress and a straw hat. You liar." Little Mushroom angrily placed her hands on her waist and said, "If Sister Cherry Blossom and Brother White Shirt don't return, Little Mushroom will tear down your storytelling desk. The hot-tempered little mushroom stunned everyone who was listening to the story. A normal little mushroom would not be so arrogant. Who made her angry? Little Mushroom, why did you call me a liar? Mr. Tanuki shook the wine jar and said, "This is all true. You've never left Full Spirit County, so how could you know about the battle at Wordtide Bay? You are a liar." Little Mushroom angrily stood on top of the wooden stake. His round eyes rolled, and with tears he said, "If they won, why didn't they come to find Little Mushroom?" Puffed. Everyone sighed. Everyone wanted to hear what it had to say, but they didn't expect it to be the crazy mushroom that loved to talk nonsense. How could the grand 1,000-year-old cherry blossom spirit and heaven's fate master come to find a little mushroom? It was clearly lying. "I think that they will come to find you soon." Mr. Tanuki rubbed his rainbow mushroom umbrella and said with a smile. Chapter 338. This Mr. Storyteller's words are quite accurate. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes as she looked forward, as her eyes slightly lit up. Of course he's accurate. A Li Guang flashed in Mo by C's eyes as he said with a smile, "He isn't a normal person." After saying this, he walked forward and stopped in front of Mr. Tanuki. "By white-clothed big brother." The little mushroom was very excited. With a soft jump, it jumped onto his shoulder and looked back. When it saw Luo Qingshun, the little mushroom began to cry as it jumped into her embrace. "Mr. Storyteller, I have a question to ask." "Mister, please ask." "Can I be with the person I love forever in this life? If the sun and moon lose their light and the world changes color, she will always be with you." "All right, thank you." Mo by Ci looked at the faint golden glow on the tip of the Tanuki's right hand, and a different emotion flashed in his eyes. He turned slightly and walked in Luo Qingshun's direction. "What did you say to Mr. Tanuki?" She hugged the little mushroom and saw the joy on his face that couldn't be hidden as she asked this in a doubtful voice. The cold Destiny Master, other than being warm to her. He actually chatted with a fox who loved to drink and was this happy. "Aya, what is this?" "I just asked him a question." Mo by Ci revealed a faint smile. This smile was very casual, but it was also very beautiful. Luo Qingshun couldn't help being stunned. She rarely saw his smile this deep. It was like ink that couldn't be melted, making one's heart fill with joy just by looking at it. "You must be the Destiny Master. Can you believe the words of a fox who is drunk?" "Yes." He softly took her hand and tightly held it in his palm as he walked forward. The night of the Full Spirit County was as beautiful as a river of fireflies. The mushroom lanterns with the light of fireflies lit up this dreamland. "Dang, dang, dang, this is the cloud swing that the little mushroom specially prepared." Little Mushroom pointed at the white fluorescent light on the tree stump in front of them and said, "There will be a firefly party in Full Spirit County later. Big brother and big sister must come." "Okay." Luo Qingshun nodded lightly, watching the little mushroom hopping away. The stars in the sky shone brightly, igniting the cloud swing. The area inside the tree stump was very large. Red ropes hung down one after another. It seemed to be a place for making wishes. "You can make a wish here." Luo Qingshun looked at the wish written on the red paper for the goblins, and her eyes were filled with Li Guang. "I want to be friends with Brother Dryad. I like Sister Wildboar next door, but she doesn't seem to like me. Can you bestow me with a handsome Xiao Xian?" Luo Qingshun couldn't help but laugh when she saw the wishes. It seemed that no matter if it was a human, an immortal, or a demon, there was a place in the depths of their hearts where the secrets hidden in their hearts were written. Does the heaven-falling continent's number 1 Destiny Master have anything to say? Luo Qingshun took out a piece of red paper from a jar to the side for Mo by Ci and said, "Do you want to write it down?" She pursed her lips and looked at him with a sweet smile. Mo by Ci's heart skipped a beat. He reached out his right hand and slowly stroked her cheek. After that, his left hand moved around her waist and pulled her into his embrace. She could clearly feel her heart pounding like a little deer, being hugged so warmly by such a cold person. This feeling, it really wasn't bad. It was just a bit tight. Chapter 339. Luo Qingshan heard this, and her face couldn't help blushing. This blush didn't stop until it reached her ears. There really is something that you have to promise me. She pursed her lips. When she said this, the scene of the unbounded land kept playing in her mind. Some pain. Going through it once was called a tribulation. Going through it twice was torture. She really didn't want to experience that pain again in this life. It was like being in a dark world. One couldn't see their fingers in front of them. Each path led to a dead end. Speak. He softly stroked her hair and hugged her even tighter. I know that you are a heaven's fate master. You are able to divine the future clearly. She buried her head in his chest, took a deep breath, and said, But can you not go alone without saying a word when you foresee a dangerous fate? This, Mo by Ci said with an awkward smile, I really can't. Why? She suddenly jumped out of his embrace, her bright eyes flashing. She never thought that, even with her soft words, she would still be rejected this decisively. Because he took her hand and sat down on the swing, gently swinging it as he said, I can't calculate your fate. He was the only person in this world who couldn't calculate her fate. It was her, his love tribulation. What? Luo Qingshan looked up into his eyes that sparkled like stars as she said in a surprised voice, Then how do you know my heavenly tribulation? A kind of transaction, using cultivation to exchange for the heavenly fate of the constellation god. Mo by Ci revealed a faint smile as a pampering look appeared in his eyes. He looked into her clear eyes and said, It's all in the past now. Constellation god? She knew about this person, but she didn't dare believe that he existed. She felt that this was a deity, someone who was even more powerful than Mo by Ci. Mr. Tanuki. What? Luo Qingshan's long lashes sparkled as she looked incomparably shocked. No, it should be said that she was stunned. He just turned into Mr. Tanuki. Mo by Ci patted her head and said, The star god is an existence that is both good and evil, a very casual person. But you also transcended the tribulation to become a god, didn't you? He nodded lightly and said, If I hadn't gone through the tribulation to become a deity, I wouldn't have been able to see through his illusion. Ah, I see. Luo Qingshan was suddenly enlightened. No wonder you were so happy after talking to him. Can you share what you talked about? Something that could make the cold heavens fate master unable to conceal her joy was definitely something incredible. He pretended to hesitate for a moment, his eyebrows moving slightly. Close your eyes, and I'll tell you. Could it be that he gave you some amazing artifact? Luo Qingshan obediently closed her eyes and prepared to listen. But he never thought that in the next second, the young man's thin and cool lips gently pressed against her lips. It was very light, very sweet, and slightly cold. M.O. Woo. She wanted to say something, but the other side kissed her even more deeply. In the heat, she gradually lost her voice. The surroundings were filled with the light of fireflies. The white cloud swing was covered in a faint blue glow, and the red paper above her head fluttered in the wind. The scene seemed to freeze in that moment. There was a piece of glowing red paper that slowly rose up, and there was someone writing on it with spiritual energy. Chapter 340. This is bad, this is bad. The little fox demon ran over to them and cut them off. Luo Qingshan quickly jumped out of Mo by Ci's embrace as a sparkle appeared in her eyes. She touched her face and felt that it was burning hot. She awkwardly pulled her hair behind her ear and jumped out, looking at the little fox as she said, "What is it?" The little mushroom was taken. This matter happened 2 hours ago. The little mushroom went to the hot spring inn to get wine, and no one cared that much. Even when the Firefly Night banquet was about to begin, it still didn't come back. The little fox felt that something was wrong, so it went to the hot spring inn to look for it. In the inn, it saw a note. Luo Qingshan took the note, and there were a few words written on it. If you want to save this mushroom, come to the Snow Mountain Range. Luo Qingshan will come alone. She wanted to give a note to Mo by Ci, but he shook his head. You divined who took the little mushroom? Seeing his knowing expression, it was like she could see his heart. Mo by Ci gave a slight nod. There was a deep look in his eyes as he looked at her and said, "You can go. There's no danger." There was indeed no danger for Luo Qingshun. But for him, there was a bit of a bad taste in his heart. But he believed in her, unconditionally believing in her. You're not coming with me? Luo Qingshun looked up slightly. Looking at Mo by Ci in front of her, there was a look of expectation in her eyes. I'll wait for you at the bottom of the mountain. After saying this, he raised his right hand and the flashy sword appeared. He softly pulled her and said, Although I divined that there was no danger, I can't see your fate. Remember to wear the moon cherry blossom robe. That way I'll be more assured. Luo Qingshun slightly knit her brows. Standing on the flashy sword, her hands grabbed his clothes as her heart suddenly filled with emotions. She wanted to stay by his side, always staying by the side of this youth who did many things in silence and didn't let her know. Sometimes, this terrifying obsession made people's hearts ache. Therefore, she should always stay by his side and accompany him, shouldn't she? At the top of the snow mountain range. This was her second time coming to this place. Before she came up the mountain, Mo by Ci had placed a light blue barrier around her. Therefore, it didn't take much spiritual energy to climb a mountain. However, it was a little cold. The first time she came here, she didn't feel cold at all because he was by her side using his spiritual energy to warm her. But this time he was not by her side. He only felt waves of coldness pass through his skin and into his heart. Above his head was a starry sky with a bright moon. The little mushroom was playing with snowflakes inside a green barrier. It was very happy. There was a long sword that glowed with dark blue starlight stuck in the snow beside it. The air was filled with a familiar aura, as if this aura had been by his side for hundreds of years. She walked to Little Mushroom's side and picked up the sword that was stuck in the snow. She frowned and muttered, "Stellar sword." In the next second, a figure flashed behind her. Someone suddenly hugged her. In an instant, she jumped back and unsheathed her star sword. The air was filled with the faint scent of cherry blossoms, and a few petals fell with the wind. She took a deep breath and looked at the black-clothed person in front of her. Li Jinfeng, it's you, right? He took off his black hat and said with a helpless smile, "It's a pity. Your powers are too high. I wanted to hug you one last time, but I couldn't do it." But he was very unwilling. He really was unwilling. If he could do everything again, he would definitely stay by that cherry blossom girl's side. Chapter 341. Half a year ago, he had personally seen the Destiny Master who stood above tens of thousands of people take serious injuries for her and jump into the abyss. He had stood on the vine for a long time. Even when Yin Ruo Yao left, he didn't have the courage to jump down. Perhaps this was the difference between him and Mo by Ci. He couldn't be like him, not caring about life and death for love. He had been in the unbounded land for half a year. If it wasn't for the fact that he was a spirit spell master and could absorb the essence of the sun and moon, he would have starved to death. It was a pity that the essence of the sun and moon wasn't enough for him to use spells in the unbounded land. In a daze, he had been in closed-door cultivation for half a year. In the end, he was able to leave this place because of the Battle of the Word-Tide Bay, accidentally opening the barrier gate. After he came out, he heard about the battle and knew that they were still alive. The thing he wanted to do the most in his heart was to see her. Just once was enough. It seems like you spent quite a bit of time coming out of the unbounded land. Luo Qingshun looked at Li Jinfeng with a bit of a cold gaze. Actually, if you had fallen into the endless abyss with us that day, perhaps you wouldn't have taken this long to leave. He didn't care about her. In a moment of life and death, any person had the right to be selfish. He seemed to understand before shaking his head with a bitter smile. So it's like this. No wonder they came out of the unbounded land. No wonder they could work together to defeat the demon monarch. No wonder they were the perfect pair for the world. Qingchen, Li Jinfeng took 2 steps forward and looked at her as he said, "Do you remember the first time we saw snow?" Luo Qingshun slightly knit her brows. It seemed to be the second year after the previous host came to the Void Residence. Because of the Void Residence's weather, there was no snow for 100 years, so she said that she wanted to see snow. Li Jinfeng put down everything in his hands and brought her to the mortal world, enjoying the white snow that belonged to the two of them. So, Her eyes were incomparably indifferent, like the memories of the past couldn't leave a trace of beauty in her mind. Perhaps there was, but the previous host's memories were too tragic and all the hatred covered the initial love. I regret it. He bit his lip and used all his courage to say these 4 words. He finally wanted to face his own heart. It turned out that he had unknowingly fallen deeply in love with her 100 years ago. However, when Yin Ruyao appeared, he desperately tried to convince himself that only the fate of the previous life could be exchanged for the results of this life. He was overly obsessed with the person he missed in his past life and missed the person he loved in this life. He was the one who let her down. Li Jinfeng, do you know how laughable it is to say I regret it? She narrowed her eyes, and there was a bit of mist in her eyes, or perhaps the original owner's heart was moved. She waved her right hand and opened the small mushroom's barrier. The pink petals gently circled around it and brought it into her arms. Qingchun, there's nothing to regret. She cut him off and took a deep breath before saying, Li Jinfeng, I am no longer the previous Luo Qingchen. I know. He wanted to explain, but it was as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat. In the end, he couldn't say anything. Let me finish first. She looked up at him and said, I don't know if that girl will forgive you or not, but if it was me, I wouldn't. You don't need to regret it, because she won't be coming back. Luo Qingchen didn't know if Li Jinfeng understood or not, but it didn't matter if he understood or not. This was unrelated to her. She just wanted to leave the mountain as soon as possible. Chapter 342. At the same time, at the foot of the snow-capped mountain, Mo by Ci stood with his hands crossed, looking at the tall snow-capped mountain, as his heart couldn't calm down for a long time. He admitted that he was afraid. He was afraid that the 100 years of being with her would be exchanged for her looking back. But if it really was like this, what should he do? He believed her, but he was also afraid. This kind of contradictory state of mind had never appeared in his life for thousands of years. He suddenly felt a bit of regret. Why didn't he go up the mountain with her? Could it be that because the other side was Li Jinfeng, so the mortal emotions in his heart were causing trouble? He didn't know if it was because his mood was bad or if it was normal for snow to fall at the foot of the snow-capped mountain. For a while, the temperature around them fell. Not long after, large amounts of snow fell from the sky. Achoo! Standing on the starlight soared not far away, holding the little mushroom in her hand, she gave a large sneeze. She trembled as her heart was filled with confusion. What was this situation? Why did it feel colder at the foot of the mountain than at the top? When he heard this, he suddenly turned to look at the girl in the snow, and his heart was filled with excitement. He was also a bit nervous. Why does it feel so cold? Luo Qingchen waved her hand at Mo by Ci, tightly hugging the little mushroom for warmth. The little mushroom also feels so cold. Mo by Ci's lips curled slightly as he quickly walked in Luo Qingchen's direction. He didn't give her a chance to react as he softly pulled her into his embrace. Dong! Luo Qingchen was a bit stunned. The little mushroom fell to the ground and rolled twice in the snow. What? What is it? She could feel his heart beating violently as his hands tightly held her. It was like she would disappear at any moment, not wanting to let go at all. I'm afraid. His cool voice sounded beside her ear as he said in a trembling voice, You won't come back, Emoked by it. When she heard this, her eyes instantly turned red. That was because she had never thought that such a cold and aloof Heaven's Fate Master would say such words. Actually, she didn't know that he was that afraid of losing her. As a Heaven's Fate Master who could foresee all future fates, when the most important person in his life was standing in front of him, but he couldn't foresee her fate, he felt extremely helpless. He could only tell himself to believe in her, to believe that in the next 10 million years, he would be able to replace the past 100 years. So there are times when our Heaven's Fate Master is afraid of the future. She pursed her lips, and her eyes were filled with tears, but there was a sweet smile on her face. If you were always by my side, I wouldn't be afraid of anything. He said it word by word seriously. He could hear the slight teasing in her words. He just stubbornly said what he wanted to say. It was like a confession, like a promise. In short, that cold and arrogant heaven's fate master who said that she didn't know how to speak sweet nothings. His words of love warmed her heart. I think I will always be by your side for the rest of my life. She closed her eyes and softly said in her ear, perhaps you don't believe me, but I've never liked Li Jinfeng. Or perhaps it could be said that the girl who loved Li Jinfeng for 100 years was never her. After that, he hugged her even tighter. It was like a simple sentence from her could sweep away all the worries in his heart. Chapter 343. Not being lovesick in one's life would cause lovesickness, causing lovesickness. Some people are good to you. You can see it and know it. And some people, perhaps on the day they die, you wouldn't know how many earth-shattering things they did for you. In the days that followed, Mo by Ci did as he said, not letting her hurt him at all. The peaceful as water days, not only did they not feel bored, rather they cherished them even more. On a certain day, 100 years later, the little mushroom said that it wanted to go to the mortal world to see a real mushroom. Luo Qingshun couldn't stop it, so she went with Mo by Ci and brought it to the mortal world for a day. Isn't a real mushroom like you? Walking in the center of the market, Luo Qingshun hugged the little mushroom as she spoke with a smile. The little mushroom was tightly wrapped in a black cloak, only revealing its two large eyes as it looked around. It attracted the attention of many citizens. Quickly look, what is that? It seems to be a dog. How could a dog's eyes be that big? It can't be a monster, right? Luo Qingshun revealed an awkward smile. She covered the little mushroom's large eyes and quickly pulled Mo by Ci to a place with fewer people. When they took 2 steps, they heard an uproar. Ah, the crown prince is here. That person actually dares to block the crown prince's horse. He's simply tired of living. Luo Qingshun heard this and turned around, revealing a surprised look. The young girl who was holding a kitten and standing in front of the horse looked very similar to her. The young girl was wearing a light pink robe, and her eyes were a bit cold as she looked at the golden sedan in front of her. The curtain was pulled back, and a familiar face appeared in front of her eyes. Li Jinfeng. There was a faint blue glow on Mo by Ci's fingertips, and after a while, he said, he's crossing a tribulation. Crossing a tribulation? Luo Qingshun asked in a confused voice. That pink-clothed girl. I think he begged the Star Monarch before he descended to the mortal realm. When he went through the love tribulation, the girl's appearance would be changed by him. Mo by Ci softly held her hand as his eyes fell onto the pink-clothed girl as he slowly spoke. What is your name? I am Sunai. Are you willing to return to the palace with me? I'm not willing. Hearing this, Luo Qingshun shook her head helplessly and sighed. He always likes to be reluctant to part with the past. He thinks that by being obsessed with the past life, he can exchange it for the happiness of this life. But some people have changed. Let those beautiful years of the past remain in the past. After all, cherishing the present was the most important thing to do. Let's go back. She turned around and looked at him with a faint smile. Her heart was filled with satisfaction. Little Mushroom shook his head as he casually grabbed a handful of mushrooms from the market stall and stuffed them into his pocket happily. In fact, it was just playful and wanted to come to the mortal world for a walk. After all, she had Sister Cherry Blossoms and Brother White Shirt, who loved her the most in this world. Many years later, there was a rumor among the people. The Void Residence's Destiny Master and 1,000-year-old Cherry Blossom Spirit lived in seclusion in the full Spirit County. They didn't care about worldly affairs, didn't care about the mortal world, and didn't care about the people of the world. When they passed by a forest, they could hear soft laughter and the faint scent of cherry blossoms. Thousands of years later, Mo by Ci calculated his return first, but he never thought that this girl would leave before him. Don't be sad. She pursed her lips into a faint smile. I'm not sad. Mo by Ci shook his head and hugged her as he said, I'm just a bit afraid. Afraid that they would never see each other again. Afraid that this life would be forever frozen. I'll come find you. She closed her eyes and tightly held his hand with her white fingers. The light pink cherry blossom rain slowly fell from the sky. It was like a dream, looking very beautiful. All right, I'll wait for you. He closed his eyes, and layers of blue light surrounded them. Chapter 344. I don't like being alone, but if it's not you, I'd rather be alone. Su Qing Xiaz, the blood demon hall's fourth highness. In Father's eyes, I was the most outstanding one. The one standing by my side in the future was the girl who could control dreams. Meng Ling, like the color green. So she always wore an aqua green gown and waved a bell in front of me. I didn't know what kind of feelings I had for her. I just knew that I didn't feel annoyed. That was love. Until the first time I met that pink-clothed girl in the hot spring inn, her eyes were very clear. She seemed like a little demon with weak spiritual energy, but she wanted to see injustice. I never believed in love at first sight, but that feeling of my heart skipping a beat made me a bit excited. Her spells weren't that good, but her dodging abilities weren't bad. After a few moves, I couldn't help feeling interested. This was the first time I felt interested in someone who didn't have a purpose. But when I was excited, Mo by CI appeared. I knew that I wasn't his match, and this was the full spirit county. There was no need to fight him head-on. Although my heart felt uncomfortable, I still chose to leave first. Before leaving, I said to her that we would meet again. I didn't know if she understood, but this was actually a promise of mine. In this life, this was the only promise I made. Then I received news from Yin Ruo Yao that Mo by CI was entering the Dead Soul Sea Pond to find the Starlight Sword. I was overjoyed. The place the Destiny Master divined was naturally where the Starlight Sword was. This was simply the heavens helping me, because I never thought that an ancient divine weapon would fall in a place that could reduce the power of a righteous person by half. On my territory, but I never thought that she would also come. She was wearing a light blue brocade and a moon-white dress, standing by Mo by C's side. Without knowing why, my heart didn't feel good, but I still had a teasing smile on my face. Actually, I just wanted to talk to her a bit more. I didn't know which righteous person was seeking death, but he attacked me with a jealous look in his eyes. As someone who had been through 1,000 flowers, I only needed to take a glance at his eyes to know that he also liked Luo Qingchen. A wave of anger that came out of nowhere rushed to my head. In this Dead Soul Sea Pond, my spiritual energy completely suppressed that righteous person, and I severely injured him. But I still couldn't beat Mo by CI. Just how strong is the #1 person in the Void Residence to be able to defeat me here? No one can understand how unwilling I am. I never thought that Yin Ruiyao would take the opportunity to open the enchantment of the unbounded land. I can't enter this place. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was that nothing would happen to her. The next time we met was half a year later. My Lord Father had broken through the seal and was planning to massacre the entire heaven-falling continent. As his son, I had to fight by his side, but I was afraid that I would meet her in this great battle. Sure enough, in this world, whatever one was afraid of would come true. When that faint pink voice appeared amidst the flames and lightning, I could feel my heart beating violently. I didn't even think about it as I fought for my Lord Father, wanting her to leave. But I never thought that in order to protect me, she would lock me in place and close her eyes to chant that terrifying ancient sacrificial spell. In that moment, I felt like my world was collapsing. I didn't know why she wanted to protect me, but I knew that I couldn't protect her until Mo by CI appeared, until he killed my Lord Father like he was possessed by a god, until he softly took her into his embrace, until they disappeared in front of me, leaving forever. After that, I never saw her again. But on a random afternoon, I would have a beautiful dream. In the dream, we met for the first time. In the dream, the white-clothed youth never appeared. Chapter 345. Even if I can't turn back, even if I miss you to the bone, I will still treat you the same as before as long as time goes by. Mo by CII have never felt any emotion in my life because I can predict the future that anyone would be confused about. I've never been afraid of the tribulations of fate. I never loved anyone. I never experienced calamities. I didn't know what being moved was. I didn't know what looking at 10,000 years was. But that year's word tide, they broke the peace in my indifferent world. There was an unprecedented sense of defeat in my life because I couldn't protect the person I wanted to protect. So what if I was the only Destiny Master in the world? I couldn't calculate the fate of the person. I was going through a love calamity. After the battle, I went into closed-door cultivation for 100 years. I thought for 100 years, just what kind of thing could I create that wouldn't hurt the person I cared about at all? Finally, I used 100 years to create the moon cherry blossom robe. But what was the use in thinking about it? The love calamity was over. This piece of clothing no longer had any value to it. But I never thought that would be fate that I would meet her on the day I came out of closed-door cultivation. She looked very different from before, like she had only cultivated for 100 years. Her eyes were very young and clear. I was stunned, and all the joy in my heart seemed to spread out at this moment. Because I couldn't calculate her fate, but I could see a different emotion in her eyes when she looked at me. I didn't know what it was, but I was very clear that I liked the way she looked at me. After returning to the Void residence, I immediately used the most mysterious sacrifice to summon the Star God, because I have to know what happened to her body. The ancient sacrificial incantation is an extremely evil incantation. It had the use of going against the heavens, so there would be a backlash. As expected, it was as I expected. She had 9 layers of her powers sealed, and her heavenly tribulation hadn't passed yet. I used 300 years of my cultivation to exchange for her heavenly tribulation with the Star God. It was the 3 heavenly thunders from the red lotus orb. I knew that it was impossible for her to dodge them. When she was the 1,000-year-old cherry blossom spirit of the full spirit county, she couldn't use her powers to subdue the demon monarch. In the end, she had no choice but to chant the ancient sacrifice spell and die with him. But now, she was just a little cherry blossom demon that had cultivated for 100 years. After all, the 3 bolts of heavenly lightning had scared her out of her wits. Then, when the past repeats itself, I will never let her suffer the slightest bit of harm. Absolutely, everything I have planned all out. I was just waiting for the Star Venerate to ask me to head to the Dead Soul Sea Pond to search for the Stellar Sword. I wanted 2 people, the Blood Demon Hall's Yin Royale and Li Jinfeng, who could at least protect her when I wasn't here. Yin Royale is the most important person in this heavenly tribulation because I know that the Red Lotus Orb is in her hands. Transcending tribulation for someone else is a heaven-defying act. I can only use the cruelest method to successfully block the heavenly tribulation for her. Then, there's only one place in this world that can hurt me: the unbounded land. I had calculated everything. As long as the 3 bolts of red lightning from the Red Lotus Orb hit me, I would be able to escape. Then, she would no longer face any calamities in her life. Based on this belief, I don't care about life or death. I just want everything to go according to my wishes. Even if my primordial spirit dissipates, I will not regret it. I should be grateful to the heavens because it really isn't mean to me. Everything is in my control. Only the exit to the unbounded land, I don't know where it is. But whether it is a mountain of blades, a sea of flames, or an endless abyss, I am willing to go with her. Chapter 346. After falling from the bottomless abyss, I thought I was dead, but I wasn't. I found a secret realm and closed up every day to heal, not daring to slack off for even a second, because I knew that she was waiting for me. She must be waiting for me. When I saw her again, it was in a sea of lightning and flames. The entire heaven-falling continent was like the end of the world. She was standing in the flames with her hands together as she chanted an incantation that I didn't want to hear in this life. In that moment, I felt my mind go blank. I didn't even think as I firmly trapped her and set up a barrier around her. This scene was like going back in time. I couldn't help thinking of 100 years ago when she died with the demon monarch in front of me. Now, how could I let her chant another incantation? I used the fastest speed to take care of the demon monarch and tightly held her in my embrace, not willing to let go for a second. I saw her clear as water eyes filled with tears, and my heart suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Indeed, it was my fault. I shouldn't have left her alone. I said sorry to her, but I found she cried even harder. I really didn't know how to get along with the person I loved, but I really didn't want to see her cry. It was like as long as she cried, my heart would fill with panic. Of course, I didn't like her seeing another man. For example, Li Jinfeng. The little mushroom who was preparing for the firefly night was suddenly taken away. I calculated it a bit, and it was him. I knew that he wouldn't hurt her, but I was afraid, because I wasn't certain how much weight those 100 years of being with her had in her heart. After all, the days I spent with her could be considered few compared to those 100 years. Now that Li Jinfeng used this method to find her, he definitely couldn't forget her. I was afraid that she would leave my side. Standing at the foot of the mountain was like a year to me, but when she appeared alone with the little mushroom, I was wild with joy. I was thinking that even if Li Jinfeng wanted to steal her from me, I definitely wouldn't let go. Because I worked so hard to find her, and it was so hard to stand by her side. How could I let go of such an important person like her? In that moment, she softly whispered these words in my ear. These words, compared to sweet words, made my heart feel more at ease. She said that she never loved Li Jinfeng. She said that the person who loved him no longer existed. I hugged her, tightly holding her. In that moment, I was incomparably certain. At this moment, she belonged to me alone. No one could take her from my side. After a certain year, we fell to the mortal world and met Li Jinfeng. I divined that he was going through a tribulation, but I didn't expect that he would transform his tribulation of love into her appearance. Actually, when I looked at that illusory figure, I felt a little uncomfortable in my heart. It's as if I'm not willing to share my body with anyone, even if it's just my skin. But when I held her hand tightly, the annoyance in the depths of my heart disappeared. Li Jinfeng and I were both people, but the methods we use are not the same. His attachment to his previous life had already surpassed love and hatred. For the sake of persistence, she had even forgotten what her initial sincerity was. As for me, mine was Luo Qingchen, the Luo Qingchen's was, and the Luo Qingchen's was. A's obsession, who the cherry blossoms messed up. Looking back, who the mortal world met. Chapter 347. System. What's Glazed Tile's favorite thing to do? Glazed Tile, plot reversal. System. Plot reversal. Only Glazed Tile, but isn't Glazed Tile afraid of being beaten up? Glazed Tile, don't beat Glazed Tile. Don't let the mood reversal become even more frequent. System. Dash, please ignore the above conversation that has no nutritional value. Next, let's enter the 10-question and answer session of the fairies eating dog food. Next, let's have lore by CI say a few words. Alright, lore by CI is rather cold. The system forgot. Then let's get to the main topic. First question. As the only diviner in the heaven-falling continent, what do you regret the most? 100 years ago, I made her chant the ancient sacrificial incantation. You know this incantation too? I don't, but I know other incantations. Oh, the system replied coldly. Second question. Can you give a simple comment on Yin Royale? A stepping stone for 3 heavenly tribulations. The system really admires you. Third question. Who is the person you hate the most in this world? No one. Why? Lore by CI actually doesn't hate anyone. It's simply unbelievable. Because the person they love is me, they should hate me. That sounds very logical. Yes. Fourth question. If time could be reversed, when would you wish to meet her? My previous life. Because I feel that this life is too short, I can't bear to part with her. Enough. The system won't eat this dog food. All right. Fifth question. Were you afraid in the unbounded land? Even the system felt that place was very terrifying. No. I've always been thinking about when Yin Ruiyao would activate the red lotus orb. When she activated it, I was incomparably excited. I almost shouted out loud, but it's a pity that I didn't have the strength at that time. The system prostrates in admiration of Lord by C's brain. Sixth question. Weren't you worried about her during the Spirit Arts Conference? I wasn't worried. I was right beside her. She couldn't be hurt. If Yin Ruiyao hurt her, I would disregard everyone's opinion and join the battle. He looks so handsome. Too bad the system didn't get to see it. Seventh question. Do you think the little mushroom is cute? For someone who had been a third wheel for so many years, it was a good thing that Xiaoqing came later. Otherwise, you'll probably see a bowl of mushroom soup on the dining table one day. The system shuddered. It was a little scared. Eighth question. When did you think you truly fell in love with her? Ugh. After a while, she finally heard M.O. by C's voice. It was probably during the incident with the icy soul jade. I found a throbbing in the depths of my heart that I had never felt before. Not allowing others to wrong her, not allowing others to bully her, and not allowing Li Jinfeng to approach her. Ninth question, what is the thing that scares you the most? She didn't fall in love with me. Let's finish this bowl of dog food. 10th question, say something to her. It can be considered as the ultimate confession of the cold destiny master. I'm willing to accompany you from green to white until I'm over 70 years old. If you go first, I will accompany you on the path of eternal reincarnation. All right, this is very MO by CI. Chapter 348. When she opened her eyes, she was already in the chaos space. She could still hear MO by C's soft voice in her ears. That cold voice had warmed her for thousands of years. Does the system want to see the world after you die? Yes/no. All right, I want to see. There was no reason. She just suddenly missed him. She missed the youth who took 3 bolts of heavenly thunder for her. After she left, what would happen to him? After that, white smoke appeared around the bronze mirror, and the scene in the mirror gradually became clear. That white-clothed youth was tightly holding her in his embrace as tears appeared in the corners of his eyes. He lowered his head and whispered something in her ear. As soon as he finished speaking, a faint blue light appeared around them, and the light became stronger and stronger. Finally, it turned into a wisp of green smoke and disappeared. The entire scene lasted less than 30 seconds, which meant, after she died, MO by CI only let himself live for 30 seconds before leaving with her. Just what kind of obsession could create this kind of MO by CI? Close it. Luo Qingshun took a deep breath as her eyes misted over, sparkling with Liguang. In the end, she had left him again. Her mood suddenly fell, and she wanted to buy something. System, I didn't spend any exchange points this time. I want to buy something. Host, please speak. A host with exchange points can be willful. I need 2 bear dolls. Give me a small garden, the kind filled with flowers. I also need a large bathtub to soak in, 2 soft sofas, and a bookshelf. Ding, 800 exchange points has been taken. What else does the host need? Let's do this for now. After that, the entire chaos space opened up, just like a warm little house. The following is a summary of the mission. Host, please properly look over it. Name, Luo, Qingshun World. Cold Destiny Masters, Cherry Blossom Spirit Demon. Mission completion rate, 50%. The host hasn't released the seal within a month. 1,000 experience has been deducted. Isn't this a bit too ruthless? There are currently 3 items in the experience space. Beauty Pill, and the Space-Time Mirror. Since the host only has 2 spaces, it must be expanded. Expanding requires 1,000 exchange points. Otherwise, one of the items will be lost. Expand. There was simply no other choice. Exchange points. 9,500. 800 deducted from furniture. 1,000 deducted from portable storage expansion. Mission reward. 5,000. Host. The 8th mission panel is below. Experience, appearance, physical strength, charm, figure. Other than experience, all other values are only for this mission and have nothing to do with other missions. Why do I feel like this is the lowest base panel I've ever seen? And why is my experience getting worse and worse? The missions in the future will get harder and harder. If the host fails to complete the hidden mission, the corresponding experience points will be deducted. Oh, his face was cold. In the next second, the image in the bronze mirror changed. Mission rating, EXP gained, 500. Exchange points gained, 2,000. Female lead. Luo Qingshun male lead. Yiji Jin supporting female, lead number 1. Cheng Qian Z supporting female, lead 2. Xiao Mingtian supporting male. Gu Qinghua mission content. Main line. Return to the female lead's first year of high school and obtain the love of the male lead Yiji Jin. Yiji Jin, this name really sounds good. Host, are you ready to enter the next plane? In fact, you still have time to rest. Ready. Parting was for a better reunion. As for me, I don't want you to wait too long, no matter what you meet. Chapter 349. This was the story of a childhood sweetheart. Feelings grew over time, or they forgot their feelings for each other. The previous host and the male lead had been neighbors since they were born. They were definitely childhood sweethearts, whether it was eating, sleeping, playing, or playing together since they were young. That kind of ignorant feeling lasted until they were in 6th grade. There was a change in the childhood sweetheart, and the previous host moved. Although they were still in the same city, the schools in the beginning were completely different. In the 3rd year of middle school, they had no contact at all, until they met again in S City's Key High School. Yiji Jin at that time was no longer the delicate-looking child he was when he was young. Rather, he had become an elegant and handsome youth. On the day of the first-year ceremony, he became the center of attention. At the same time, the supporting male lead, Gu Qingnua, also became the center of attention. It said that these two people had been loved by over 80% of the girls since middle school. They were definitely the school hunks. Of course, there are also the two most rumored couples, Cheng Qianzi and Xiaomeng Tian. What the previous host never thought was that she would be in the same class as these two people, and they would be sitting in front of her. This kind of life made the previous host the target of envy for many girls. She thought that the little bamboo horse Yiji Jin would talk to her first, but she never thought that the first person to pat her shoulder would be Gu Qingnua. She would never forget it until the day she died. When she turned around, the light from the window shined on Gu Qingnua's white face, making him look that good. If it was called love at first sight, it was just like this. But the beginning was very beautiful, but the ending was very sad. In the previous host's memories, Yiji Jin had always been a silent existence. He wasn't cold, but he wasn't open either. Until a certain day, 10 years later, when she was about to die, she found out that there were people who had always been silently protecting her. Not asking for results, not asking for the future, never giving up, always remaining silent. But 10 years ago, the previous host's youthful crush was all given to another person, a youth named Gu Qingnua. She never thought that this youth would take the initiative to confess to her. In a single night, she was pushed to the center of the storm. The previous host's personality was quite weak. She didn't like standing on the high ground and being the target of public criticism. The supporting female lead, Cheng Qianzi, was Gu Qingnua's childhood friend and had liked him since they were young. So naturally, she couldn't accept Gu Qingnua liking someone else. She used all means to destroy the original owner's college entrance exam admission ticket and secretly change the original owner's application form. Because the original owner couldn't go to the same university as Gu Qingnua. In the end, Cheng Qianzi succeeded, and she succeeded completely. In the beginning, when they were in a long-distance relationship, Gu Qingnua would come every other month to find the original owner. There would be 3 months, half a year, and finally a year. Long-distance relationships always made people worried about their gains and losses, and they couldn't find their direction. Originally, breaking up was the best way to resolve this relationship. But Gu Qingnua made the biggest mistake of his life. She was two-timing. These two boats had been going on for 10 years since their freshman year, until the day Gu Qingnua and Cheng Qianzi got married. The previous host finally learned the truth. So the money she sent to Gu Qingnua was all given to Cheng Qianzi as a gift to please her. It turned out that every time she went to find Gu Qingnua, he would only give her a quick glance. It wasn't because he was busy, but because he had someone he wanted to accompany. Not to mention breaking up, he just couldn't bear to part with the money she sent each month. It turned out that the person who sent her cards and roses each year wasn't Gu Qingnua. It turned out that the person who had been silently by her side had always been the first youth. In the end, on the day of their wedding, the previous host's head was accidentally hit by the wedding plaque, and she couldn't be saved. When she was dying, she had always thought, if there was a parallel universe in this world, would the ending of this group of people be different? Chapter 350. When she opened her eyes, she was holding the acceptance letter from Dream One High School. She was wearing a white and blue uniform, with a head of long hair that was clean and fresh. The air was filled with the scent of the camphor tree. It was like taking a deep breath. One could feel their youth. School life was always this clean and beautiful. Everywhere was filled with the first feelings of love and the taste of an ignorant secret love. Qin-shun, congratulations. We'll be together for another 3 years. Bei Xiaoshu came from behind her and patted her shoulder as her lips curled into a bright smile. Luo Qin-shun quickly searched her mind for this girl's figure. The previous host's best friend. She had a rather carefree personality and was a cute girl. She pursed her lips into a smile and said, I wonder if we could be in the same class. According to the previous host's memories, Bei Xiaoshu shouldn't be in the same class as her. But didn't the system say this? The world had already changed the moment the host appeared, so anything was possible in the future. If you want Bei Xiaoshu to be in the same class as the host, it will cost 500 exchange points. Taking this chance to extort. The host can choose, do you want to exchange or not? Exchange. She was no longer the Luo Qin-shun who couldn't even exchange for a mace. All right? Luo Qin-shun wanted to do this because she remembered the previous host's high school life. Her desk was always empty, so she was very lonely without knowing why. Although the consciousness was hers, she wanted to let this body feel the warmth of friendship. Standing at the gates of Dream One High School, looking at the class schedule for the first-year students, Luo Qin-shun revealed a faint smile. Everything, it was time to start over. This plane, which was still young and inexperienced, had only just begun. As a first-year student, the first thing they experienced was the welcome party. The representative of the new students was the one with the cleanest smile, the one filled with the sunshine of youth, Gu Qingnua. He stood on the stage and read the new student script, becoming the center of everyone's attention. Wearing a white shirt under the sunlight, he was so handsome that it couldn't be described. This was Gu Qingnua, the center of attention of the entire school, the school hunk of Dream One High School. That's right, there was another school hunk. That was the childhood friend who grew up with the previous host, Yi Jin. The way he displayed his abilities was very different from Gu Qingnua's. He was a very quiet youth. On the night of the freshman welcoming party, he played City in the Sky on stage and officially shared the same fame as Gu Qingnua, becoming Huaimeng One High School's male god. Luo Qin-shun would never forget that night. Yi Jin's slender fingers kept jumping over the black and white keys as beautiful notes entered her ears one after another. There was a youthful stubbornness in his eyes. His pitch-black eyes were like ink that couldn't be melted, so deep and beautiful. Yi Jin is so handsome. He really does look like a prince. TSK, TSK. I envy his future princess. Damn, you can't be talking about me, right? Can you please take a look at yourself with those sunglasses? Don't you know that when he was in middle school, he had a very good couple called Xiao Mengtian, right? It's Xiao Mengtian. Are you serious? It's true. I heard that the couple of the two school hunks wasn't even in the same class as them. As class 7, we still have a chance. Oh yeah. Luo Qin-shun heard the gossip around her, and her lips curled slightly. Bei Xiaoshu excitedly pushed her shoulder and said, Our classmate Luo Qin-shun seems very calm. Classmate Bei Xiaoshu doesn't seem very excited either. Chapter 351. After going to the administration office to get her uniform and textbooks, Luo Qin-shun went home early. Although she wasn't interested in wrapping books, Bei Xiaoshu liked it, so she bought a few. This kind of bag was clean and tidy, and the name and class were written neatly. This was something that every young person would do. However, most people would only write their notes neatly in the first few days of class. Then it was a massive fog. The first class was the math that Luo Qin-shun hated the most. To be honest, the previous host's grades weren't bad, but they weren't good either. She was a completely average student. She was probably an invisible person that didn't receive the teacher's attention. As for her seat, Luo Qin-shun thought that there would be a change, but she never thought that she would be sitting at the same table as Gu Qingnua. What was the meaning of this? Was it to let her abuse this scum? Actually, Gu Qingnua wasn't a scum in high school, at least. At least at that time, he was wholeheartedly good to the previous host. But later on, he changed. Yi Jin and Bei Xiaoshu were sitting at the same table. They were the same as before, sitting in front and behind each other. This didn't change. This kind of combination and arrangement made it very difficult for her to clear the game. System, calling the system. Tell me about the affection. Since they were childhood friends, the affection shouldn't be low. Yes, 50%. This high. Hearing the system's voice, not only did she not feel happy, rather she felt very afraid. Normally speaking, in this kind of situation, there must be something happening in this plane that caused an irreversible change in the unseen world. Luo Qingshun, please come to the blackboard and answer this question. A dignified voice suddenly sounded, cutting off her conversation with the system. What question? There was a question that hadn't changed for 1,000 years. Why could the teacher always see that the student was distracted? What if the student was just thinking about a problem? What was the difference between being distracted and thinking about a problem? Luo Qingshun helplessly bit her lip and slowly stood up. Looking at the numbers on the blackboard that seemed like something out of a fantasy, she was stunned. Sorry, with the previous host's abilities, she really couldn't write the answer. Gu Qingnua, who was sitting at the same table, slowly pushed the notebook over. What were the answers to this question? With a slight movement of her fingertips, she pushed the notebook back. In the next second, he slowly walked onto the stage. In exchange for mathematical skills. Ding! 500 exchange points has been taken. Successfully exchanged for math skills. In an instant, it was as if numbers and symbols were flying all over the place in his mind. Eventually, it became something like a function. On the podium, she gently picked up a piece of white chalk and wrote down a series of combinations on the black and white chalk. Finally, she solved them one by one. Well, very good. The math teacher's voice was obviously a little awkward, but he still praised Luo Qingshun. Luo Qingshun didn't feel that there was anything to be proud of. After all, it was an ability given by the system, not her own. Returning to her seat, Bei Xiaoshi patted her shoulder with her pen and said in a small voice, "Not bad. How did the most annoying subject improve by leaps and bounds?" "Because I'm going to study science in the future." She pursed her lips. Her voice was neither soft nor loud, but it could be heard clearly by the people in the back row on the left. She wanted to say this for Yi Jin to hear. Everyone knew that Yi Jin was already much better than history and science in terms of mathematics. But in the memories of the previous host, Yi Jin actually chose to study liberal arts. Perhaps the reason why the previous host didn't know, but Luo Qingshun as the host was very clear on it now. Chapter 352. The warm breeze outside the window gently brushed against the young man's clothes. He could clearly feel that when she said the word science, his heart thumped and started beating extremely fast. She just moved her chair, and her lips curled into a smile. Sitting at the same table, Gu Qingnua's gaze fell on her youthful profile. His gaze carried a trace of confusion. This seemed to be his first time being rejected by a girl. There was something in his heart that was causing trouble. After class, Class 2's Cheng Qianzi and Xiaoming Tian were already waiting for the two youths at the door. But the relationship between the two of them didn't seem that good. "Xiaoming Tian, do you want face? I was the one who took this place first, all right?" Cheng Qianzi angrily glared at Xiaoming Tian, like her eyes were about to pop out. She didn't know why this Xiaoming Tian always went against her. She had organized a fan club for Qingnua today, but she had said, "I always felt that Yi Jin was more handsome." The funny thing was that there were close to half of the people who thought the same thing as her. Had these people's eyes been hit by a car? Blind. Did you build this road? Xiaoming Tian didn't want to be outdone as she slightly knit her brows. No matter what, she was still a child with a good family. She definitely couldn't lose face for Yi Jin. The two at the door. "Go home and do your homework after class. Or do you want me to tell your teacher that Class 2 will have a make-up math class tomorrow night?" The math teacher angrily threw the chalk at the door and angrily roared out, "Schwa." After that, all the eyes in the class fell onto the two girls at the door. They blushed in embarrassment and hurriedly ran over. After that, the class broke out in laughter. They all looked over at Gu Qingnua and Yi Jin. There were a few naughty boys who said, "Our class has many handsome guys. There are groups of little fangirls coming over every day." Did I say class was over? The math teacher angrily threw the blackboard eraser at the naughty boy. Very accurate, very strong. After that, The math teacher wrote down tonight's homework on the blackboard. 2 test papers. There were pitiful cries from below. It had to be said that if one wanted to do well in a subject like mathematics, one had to be very careful. The most effective method was, do the questions, do the questions, do the questions. Quiet. The math teacher adjusted his glasses and said, those who fail the mock exam next week won't have a weekend next month. Study hard and do your homework. Class dismissed. Bei Xiaoshi patted her shoulder and said, Qingchun, there's an interest class today. Let's go take a look. Luo Qingchun expressed that she had a mission. Okay? He didn't have time to attend the interest class. Let's go take a look. Bei Xiaoshi clasped her hands together and acted like a spoiled child. She could only helplessly nod and say, all right. Yi Jin's ears twitched as he quietly listened to their conversation while slowly packing his bag. When she stood up to walk out the door, Yi Jin quickly followed her. When the two of them walked out the back door, she could feel Yi Jin's shirt rubbing against her arm. At this moment, she could clearly integrate into the role she was playing. An inexperienced high school student's fair and clean cheeks instantly flushed with a hint of crimson. This kind of feeling made her unconsciously lower her head and touch her burning ears. Chapter 353. Although it was after school, the office for the interest class was still filled with students. Perhaps for everyone, high school already gave them a feeling of growing up. Being able to choose what they liked and being able to do what they wanted in a place where their parents couldn't see. Qingchen, what do you want to sign up for? Bei Xiaoshi looked at her with an excited look as she asked this. Luo Qingchun looked around, and finally her eyes stopped in the direction of the art class. The previous host's painting skills seemed to be quite good. Nah. I also feel that you're the most charming when you're painting. Bei Xiaoshi revealed a sweet smile, showing her support. Luo Qingchun gave a soft laugh. When she was about to walk forward, she found that the entrance was filled with excitement. Wah, quickly look. It's Gu Qingnuo from Class 7. Damn, it's really him. So handsome. He looks so charming when he smiles. Cheng Qianzi had been standing beside Gu Qingnuo the entire time. She had her head up, looking very proud. Classmate Gu, what interest class do you want to sign up for? One of the girls boldly asked this. Gu Qingnuo's brows slightly raised as he looked over in Luo Qingchun's direction. Finally, his eyes fell onto the stage for the art class. He walked forward and said to the girl at the registration counter with a gentle smile, I want to sign up. The girl's face turned red as she stuttered. Ow. All right. After that, 3/4 of the girls at the registration counter charged towards the stage for the art class. Luo Qingchun gave a shrug and walked in another direction. Finally, she stopped in front of the vocal group and said with a faint smile, I want to sign up for this. Is there still a spot? There is, the senior said with a smile. There's still many spots. Hello, I also want to sign up for the vocal group. There was a cool voice that came from behind that made her breath stop. Yi Jin's voice was very soft, but it had a very penetrating power that made people's ears turn numb. Damn, Yi Jin. One of the girls was the first to notice Yi Jin's position and excitedly jumped up. It really is Yi Jin. He's so low-key. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have noticed him. What's the occasion today? I met the 2 new male gods of Dream 1 High School. When did he come in? Don't tell me you just brushed past me. Luo Qingchun couldn't help but raise the corners of her mouth. The adoration of puberty was always like the wind. It was as if everyone suddenly had a common goal, which was to be wherever the school hunk was. That kind of worship had nothing to do with love. It was just a symbol of youth. In an instant, a group of people who had been queuing up in front of the painting group rushed towards the vocal group. At that moment, Luo Qingchun felt as if a group of terrifying zombies were rushing towards her. Yi Jin beside her had the same idea as her. Yi Jin turned over and looked into her clear eyes. He said softly, let's go. At that moment, Luo Qingchun felt that everything around her was moving in slow motion, and only her heart was beating extremely fast. She was a bit nervous. Perhaps this nervousness had nothing to do with love. It was just a clean and good-looking youth suddenly saying something in her ear that made her feel a kind of nervousness that she had never felt before. She suddenly felt that there was a word that could be used to describe herself at this moment. Chapter 354. Dream One High School's campus was a paradise for camphor trees. There was always a faint camphor smell in the air during this wonderful summer. When Yiji Jin walked beside her, he attracted everyone's attention. Most of them were whispering to each other. Why did Yiji Jin's so-called original couple, Xiao Meng Tian, become someone else? Moreover, this person was a bit unfamiliar. Luo Qingshun. Yes. Yiji Jin heard this, and his lips curled into a beautiful arc as he softly said, "You're still the same as before." No one knew how excited and satisfied his heart was in that moment. He liked to play and was very clingy when he was young. He liked to play with the girl next door, liked to call her name, and liked to hear her reply. The first thing he did every day was to walk home with her after school and go home with her. The naive young him always thought that this would be his life. It seemed like it wasn't bad, until they suddenly moved. It was incomparably sudden. Since then, he became quiet and introverted. He didn't like to play, or perhaps he didn't have anyone to play with. When his parents weren't home, he would secretly run to the balcony and loudly call Luo Qingshun's name. But there was no one who replied to him. "I thought that you didn't recognize me." She slightly looked up and saw the sparkle in his eyes. Her lips curled slightly. "What are you thinking that you're so lost in thought?" In the previous host's memories, Yiji Jin had always been a knight, but the princess would always have her prince, and the knight would never have a chance. Since she was young, the previous host had always had Yiji Jin by her side. She knew that she didn't reject his good intentions. She silently accepted it, but she loved another person in her heart. If the previous host was pitiful, it was better to say that she was in the wrong. In the world of love, not knowing how to reject was a kind of hurt. If you hurt someone else, naturally someone else would hurt you. "No, it's nothing." He softly shook his head as a look of joy appeared in his eyes. "Yiji Jin." Luo Qingshun still wanted to say something, but there was a call from not far away that cut her off. Xiao Mengtian jogged over and said while panting, "Didn't you say you're going to sign up for an interest class?" How did he disappear the moment I turned around? At this point, her gaze fell on Luo Qingshun. She frowned and asked, "You are?" Luo Qingshun sized up Xiao Mengtian. She had fair skin and a sweet appearance. She had on makeup. Although it was very light, it could still be seen. Towards Xiao Mengtian, the original owner did not have any impression of her. After all, her mind wasn't on Yiji Jin, so naturally she didn't care what kind of girl he had by his side. But it was different now. Aya, a love rival. Luo Qingshun, from Class 7. She nodded and replied politely. "Oh." Xiao Mengtian's expression changed, and even her eyes became a bit slack. She stared at the young girl in front of her. Her face was pure, her skin was as white as snow, and her eyes were as clear as water. "So, this is what she looks like." For a long time, Xiao Mengtian did not reply. Rather, she took Yiji Jin's hand and said, "Let's go home. This is my little sister." Yiji Jin softly moved her hand and looked at Luo Qingshun as he honestly said, "Many things have happened since you moved. I'll slowly tell you about it in the future." There was a bit of anxiety in his voice which Luo Qingshun and Xiao Mengtian could both see. Yiji Jin was afraid of the girl in front of him. Misunderstanding. He didn't care about other people's gazes before. He didn't care what other people said about him and Xiao Mengtian. He didn't explain it to strangers because he never cared. But now, although he didn't know what to do or what to say when he met her again. Chapter 355. Big Brother Jijin, you've never revealed our identities in front of outsiders before. On the way home, Xiao Mengtian kept her head down with a depressed look on her face. She was indeed his little sister, although it was only in name. Yiji Jin loved her very much. He had never told anyone about her background. He was like a big brother, blocking all the rumors for her. Because she was an orphan, because her mother had given her to Yiji Jin's father before she died. Because her mother was his father's first love. She knew that he just pitied her and didn't have any other feelings. She also knew that there was a girl named Luo Qingshun in this world who had already taken over that boy's heart. Mengtian, don't speak. Xiao Mengtian cut him off. Her eyes were filled with tears as she bit her lip and said, I know why you applied to Dream One High School that's so far away from home. I heard your conversation with Annie. After saying this, she covered her mouth and ran away in sadness. With his score, he could have applied to the best high school in the province close to home. But he didn't. There was only one school on his list, which was Dream One High School. Early the next morning, Bei Xiaoshu angrily came to question her, asking her why she had disappeared last night. Humph, too much. Sorry. Luo Qingshan finally remembered and quickly apologized. Can I treat you to lunch? That's more like it. I'll forgive you this time. Luo Qingshan gave an okay sign and didn't even turn back. She really was a coward. Without knowing why, when faced with Yi Jin, who had a 50% affection for her, she felt very shy. If it was only 0%, she could confess however she wanted and break the pot. But right now, she was like a little girl's first love. She wanted to approach, but she didn't dare. She wanted to speak, but she didn't dare. Qingshan, there was suddenly a knock on the left side of her back. She blinked and awkwardly took the note Yi Jin handed to her. Do you want to go to the library after school? Yi Jin, beside her, Gu Qingnua glanced at her, his eyes flashing. She didn't notice the look in her deskmate's eyes. Instead, she quickly wrote a word on a piece of paper. Okay, Luo Qingshan. Why wouldn't she accept this kind of male lead taking the initiative to court her? She couldn't help but feel elated when he was happy and her favorability towards him started to rise. Thinking of this, the corner of her mouth unconsciously raised into a faint smile. I also want to go to the library after school. Can you reserve a seat for me? Gu Qingnua's gentle voice suddenly sounded from beside him. She was slightly stunned and turned to look at him in disbelief. You look like you've seen a ghost in the middle of July. Gu Qingnua narrowed his eyes, his gaze incomparably focused. Her heart skipped a beat. Perhaps it was this kind of gaze that finally led the original owner to the point of no return. There was one point that the original owner only realized many years later. Gu Qingnua was like a moon surrounded by stars. He was good to every girl, and he treated everyone the same. Of all these people, only the original owner and Cheng Qianzi fell the deepest. In that parallel world, it seemed like Cheng Qianzi won on the surface. But in reality, who could be certain that in the next few years, Gu Qingnua wouldn't fall in love with someone else? Although she didn't know, Luo Qingshan felt that.